Tonight, we journey along the ancient Silk Road, not through the lens of conquest or empire, but through the quiet wisdom of those who carried something far more precious than gold or jewels. The delicate, aromatic leaves that would become humanity's most beloved companion. Tea, close your eyes and let yourself drift back through the centuries. Imagine yourself settling into the rhythm of this ancient world, where time was measured not in minutes, but in the slow arc of the sun across endless skies. The Silk Road was not truly a single road at all, but rather a network of pathways that stretched like delicate threads across continents. Connecting the tea gardens of China to the bustling markets of Constantinople, the mountain passes of the Himalayas to the oasis towns of Central Asia. You are about to become a tea merchant of the 8th century, a member of that quiet brotherhood who understood that the most profound journeys happen not in the dramatic moments of history, but in the gentle daily rituals of life. Picture yourself as a weathered but sturdy tent, a silent observer of the drama of human history unfolding around you. Yet here you stand, rooted in the present moment, a beacon of simplicity amidst the ebb and flow of empires. Inside, the air is thick with the comforting aroma of wood smoke, and the murmur of men sharing stories as old as the mountains themselves. Here, beside the flickering fire, you find your newest acquisition, tightly sealed chests bound with leather, each one a treasure trove of stories waiting to be shared. Your fingers, calloused from years of handling these chests, trace the intricate patterns carved into the wood, each line a verse of a language older than time itself. As the night deepens, the shadows lengthen, stretching like the caravans that traverse the Silk Road, carrying not just goods, but dreams, hopes, and stories. The tea you carry is more than just a commodity. It's a thread that weaves together the tapestry of human connection. Each leaf a testament to the sun's golden touch and the patient hands that plucked it from the bush. In the morning, as the first light touches the horizon, painting the sky with hues of amber and rose, you'll awaken to the rhythmic crunch of gravel beneath the caravan's wheels. The day stretches before you, limitless and bright, promising both challenges and camaraderie as you and your fellow merchants navigate the ancient pathways of the Silk Road. You are not merely a traveler, you are a keeper of traditions, a silent chronicler of a world that shifts and changes with every sunrise. With each step your camel takes, you carry not just the weight of the world, but the legacy of those who have walked this path before you. The wind that whips through the canyons carries whispers of ancient languages, of stories sung by nomadic tribes under skies just as boundless as today. As the sun climbs higher, the air grows thick with anticipation. The bustling marketplace sprawls before you, a kaleidoscope of sights, sounds, and aromas. Merchants from distant lands hawk their wares, their voices competing with the tinkling of temple bells and the gentle bleating of goats. Amidst the vibrant chaos, you move with the practiced ease of a man who has walked this path countless times. Your heart swells with a fierce pride. You are a link in an unbroken chain that stretches back centuries, connecting you to the very origins of this beloved beverage. You see, the art of making tea is more than just boiling water and infusing leaves. It's a ritual, a communion between the humble tea plant and the hands that pluck its leaves, a dialogue between earth and sky. The tea gardens where your precious cargo was grown are sanctuaries of tranquility, hidden oases of serenity amidst the clamor of the world. There, amidst the emerald expanse, the tea plants stand as sentinels of patience, whispering tales of slow, steady growth to those who listen. Each leaf, carefully selected and meticulously processed, carries within it the essence of this timeless tradition. And now, as you navigate the treacherous terrain of the Pamir Mountains, you understand that the tea you carry is more than just a commodity. It's a symbol of resilience, a testament to the enduring spirit of those who dared to dream beyond the horizon. The snow-capped peaks that pierce the sky seem to guard ancient secrets, their rugged slopes echoing with the laughter of nomadic tribes who found solace in a steaming cup of tea. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape, you arrive at an oasis town, a jewel of civilization nestled amidst the unforgiving desert. The sight of palm trees swaying in the gentle breeze and the sound of flowing water fills you with a sense of relief, a reminder of the life-sustaining power of nature. In the heart of this bustling town, there's a haven of tranquility, a tea house where weary travelers like you find solace and refreshment. The aroma of freshly brewed tea mingles with the scent of spices and the murmur of conversation, creating an atmosphere of warmth and camaraderie. And as the stars begin to pepper the darkening sky, you settle into the rhythm of the ancient world, where the most profound journeys are measured not in miles, but in the quiet moments of human connection. For you are not just a traveler, you are a storyteller, a keeper of traditions, and a purveyor of peace. With every cup of tea you brew, you carry the legacy of those who have walked the Silk Road before you. Their dreams, their stories, and their unwavering spirit. And so, the tale of the Silk Road lives on, not in the rumble of passing caravans, but in the gentle clink of teacups beneath the stars. Your gaze sweeps across the other camels, each a universe unto itself, each bearing silent witness to the passing of time. Ah, there is Stillness, so named because of his calm demeanor, and also the youthful impetuosity of Sand Dancer, always eager to break into a run, testing his limits against the wind. And then the matriarchs of your caravan, quiet strength and unwavering endurance, their names reflecting the quiet dignity of their presence. They have carried you through sandstorms that blotted out the sun and across wind-scoured plains that stretched to the horizon. Their survival, much like your own, has been measured by the rising and falling tides of fortune. The shifting winds of the Silk Road, your weathered hands move with the practiced grace of one who has tended to these animals for a lifetime. Despite the early hour, beads of sweat gather on your brow as you work, your movements fluid and economical. Each tendon and sinew of the camel's feet tells you stories of its health, its spirit, its endurance. With well-oiled leather, worn tools, and whispered words of encouragement, you tend to their needs. The sky above is a vast dome sprinkled with 1,000,000 diamond stars. Though the daylight hours have lengthened and the chill of dawn is yielding to the fierce heat of the midday sun. It is a journey of over 300 miles, but the terrain is mostly flat, so travel is quick and uninterrupted. But even in the relentless march across the desert, there are challenges to overcome. Hidden crevasses, treacherous sand dunes, and the unforgiving glare of the endless sun demand constant vigilance. Navigating these obstacles requires not just skill, but an intimate knowledge of the land. Your uncle's legacy weighs upon you, not as a burden, but as a guiding star. Your 8 years at the helm of this caravan, you have carved out a place for yourself in the annals of the great trading hub of Kashgar. Under your leadership, the tea from Fujian has flowed steadily into the markets of Central Asia, bringing warmth to countless households during the long, harsh winters. Now, on the cusp of your 9th season, you find yourself at a crossroads. A rival merchant from Yarkon, ambitious and ruthless, has entered the fray, threatening to undercut your prices and disrupt the delicate balance of supply and demand. You know that this journey is more than just a test of endurance. 'Tis a battle for your very livelihood, a struggle to maintain the legacy of your family and the prosperity of your city. The rivalry between you and Yarkon runs deeper than mere trade. It is a clash of values, a contest between two visions of the Silk Road. He represents the new wave of merchants, those willing to exploit every advantage, bend every rule and trample every tradition to get ahead. You, on the other hand, are bound by the old ways, by the respect for your elders, the sanctity of your oaths, and the importance of preserving the age-old traditions that have made Kashgar a jewel of the Silk Road. For you, this journey is about much more than just trade. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of adventure, resilience, and the pursuit of excellence. Every step of the way, the harsh beauty of the desert surrounds you. Rolling dunes that shimmer like molten gold under the relentless sun, rock formations that have stood the test of time, and the ever-present sky, a vast canvas stretching from horizon to horizon. The landscape is a constant reminder of the challenges that lie ahead, demanding respect, patience, and unwavering determination. As the sun climbs higher, the air grows thick with heat. Shimmering waves distort the distant landscape, and the steady rhythm of the caravan becomes your mantra. There is a strange poetry to the desert's embrace, a stark magnificence that both humbles and inspires. And as you traverse its unforgiving terrain, you feel a sense of connection to those who have journeyed here before you. The traders, pilgrims, and warriors who have dared to venture into this wild heart of the world. The hours drift by like clouds across the endless blue, And the monotonous beauty of the desert has a way of quieting the mind, allowing thoughts to drift like the sand. Memories surface, the laughter and wisdom of your uncle echoing in the stillness, the proud faces of your fellow Kashmiris, their hopes and dreams woven into the fabric of your existence. And as you look out across the seemingly endless expanse of sand and sky, you realize that this journey is more than just a physical one. It is a journey of self-discovery, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, and a celebration of the timeless allure of the unknown. The camels move with a surprising grace, their long strides eating up the miles with effortless ease. Their bodies, perfectly adapted to this harsh environment, seem to glide across the undulating dunes, their humps swaying rhythmically, balancing the heavy packs that ensure the survival of your caravan. As the sun reaches its zenith, the heat shimmers on the horizon, blurring the line between earth and sky. The air grows still, the wind holds its breath, and the desert seems to bask in the intensity of the moment. Yet amidst this searing heat, life finds a way to endure. In the distance, a hawk circles, riding the thermals high above the sand, while tiny desert flowers brave the arid landscape, their petals unfurling in defiance of the odds. Even the camels, seemingly unfazed by the scorching sun, continue their steady trek, their bodies adapting to the harsh conditions as if born to roam these endless plains. But it is not just the external world that is shaped by the unrelenting sun. The relentless heat also forges resilience within you. It tests your limits, forcing you to conserve water, ration supplies, and rely on the strength of your own spirit to keep moving forward. With every step, you feel yourself growing stronger, more attuned to the rhythms of the desert, more dependent on the goodwill of your fellow travelers. The vastness of the desert around you mirrors the immensity of your task. The challenges seem to stretch on forever, as endless as the dunes themselves. From repairing damaged packs to tending to injured camels, your attention is constantly divided, your skills put to the test. Each problem is a puzzle to be solved, each obstacle a challenge to be overcome. The desert tests your resourcefulness, forcing you to adapt, improvise, and rely on the lessons learned from countless journeys past. It is a test of character, a crucible in which your determination is tempered and your spirit is strengthened. As the sun begins its slow descent, casting long shadows across the dunes, a sense of relief washes over you. The most perilous hours are behind you, and the promise of evening brings with it a respite from the scorching heat. The sky transforms into a canvas of vibrant hues, painting the clouds with streaks of crimson, violet, and gold. The temperature drops dramatically, and a gentle breeze stirs, carrying with it the scent of distant rain. Around you, the desert comes alive with nocturnal energy. The shy desert creatures emerge from their daytime hiding places, while the night-loving birds circle overhead, their haunting calls echoing in the twilight. As darkness falls, the silence of the desert is profound, broken only by the crackling of the campfire and the murmur of voices. The stars emerge, unhindered by light pollution, creating a celestial tapestry that stretches from horizon to horizon. The Milky Way, a river of stars, flows gracefully across the sky, reminding you of the boundless wonders that lie beyond the reach of human understanding. And now, sitting around the flickering light of the campfire, sharing stories and laughter with your fellow travelers, you feel a deep sense of camaraderie, a bond forged in the crucible of shared experience. The desert, once a daunting adversary, now feels like a companion, its secrets slowly revealed, its challenges conquered, its beauty appreciated. As the embers glow and the flames dance, you find solace in the simplicity of the moment. The worries and distractions of the outside world fade away, leaving you free to connect with the timeless rhythms of the earth. The crackling fire not only provides warmth and light, but also a sense of security in the vast emptiness of the desert. It is a beacon in the darkness, a symbol of human resilience and the power of community in the face of nature's indifference. As you drift off to sleep under the watchful gaze of the stars, you dream of faraway cities, bustling markets, and the comforting sights and sounds of home. Desert may be unforgiving, but within its harsh embrace, you have found a sense of belonging, a connection to something larger than yourself. You are just a small part of a grand tapestry, a traveler on a timeless journey, forever bound to the mysteries and wonders of the desert's heart. The midday sun beats down on the caravan, as it winds its way through the towering gates of the Jade Gate. The western terminus of the Silk Road, you stand at the front of the procession, your senses acutely aware of the monumental task ahead of you. To reach Samarkand, 4,000 miles to the east, will take many months, and you, a humble tea merchant from Fujian province, are tasked with ensuring the safety and well-being of your precious cargo. At stake is not just the fortune entrusted to you by your master, but the lives of all who depend on your expertise to navigate the treacherous terrain of the Silk Road. Your first concern is for the camels. 32 strong and laden with chests brimming with the finest teas from across China. Each beast is a living testament to endurance. Their bodies sleek and powerful as they navigate the shifting sands with practiced ease. Next comes the examination of their backs, running your experienced hands along their humps and spines, feeling for swelling or tenderness that might indicate improper pack distribution. A lame camel means delay, and delay in the desert can mean death, not just for the animal, but for the entire caravan. You have learned to read their bodies like a physician reads symptoms, understanding that a slight favoring of one leg or an unusual positioning of the head can speak volumes about their condition. As the sun crests the horizon, painting the desert in shades of gold and amber, your fellow travelers begin to stir. There are 12 of you in total yourself, brother tea merchants from different regions of China, 3 guards whose weathered faces speak of countless journeys along these dangerous routes, 2 guides who know every water source and safe passage between here and Samarkand, and 2 young apprentices who are making their first journey along the Silk Road, their eyes still wide with wonder at the vastness of the world beyond their home villages. The morning tea ceremony begins without words, as it always does. Chen Wei, the eldest among your group, emerges from his tent carrying the communal tea kettle, a battered copper vessel that has traveled these routes for longer than any of you have been alive. He moves with the deliberate grace of a man who has performed this ritual thousands of times, his movements economical and sure. Water is precious here, measured not in gallons but in careful cups, each drop accounted for and allocated according to the unspoken laws of desert survival. You contribute your share to the morning brew, a pinch of your finest oolong, the leaves dark and twisted like tiny sleeping creatures. As they meet the hot water, they begin their ancient alchemy, unfurling like flowers blooming in fast motion, releasing their essence into the liquid until the pale green brew carries within it the very spirit of the misty mountains, where these leaves once danced in the wind. The first sip burns slightly, bitter and astringent, but as it flows down your throat, you feel it awakening every cell in your body. This is not merely a beverage, it is medicine, ritual, and communion all at once. Round the small circle of men cradling their wooden cups, you see the same expression of quiet reverence. In a world where every day brings new dangers and uncertainties, this simple act of sharing tea creates a moment of peace, reminder of the civilized world you carry with you even into the heart of the wilderness. When the last drops are swallowed and the cups are set down, the serious business of the day begins. One by one, the camels are brought forward, each receiving the same careful scrutiny. You check the ropes securing their loads, noting that the chests containing your tea are evenly distributed, heavy, but not so much that the animals could falter. Ease. Merchants rely on your expertise to ensure their goods reach Samarkand intact, and you will not fail them. It's not just the cargo that must be accounted for. You run a practiced eye over each member of your caravan, noting any sign of fatigue or illness. In the flickering light of the campfire, you see the anxious face of the youngest apprentice, his usual exuberance dimmed by a fever that has taken hold. You recall your own first journey, the challenges of keeping your body and spirit strong against the odds. Drawing on your inner reserves of strength, you approach him, sharing words of comfort and advice honed by years of experience on the Silk Road. The day stretches before you, vast and unforgiving canvas of sand and sky. You urge the caravan forward, moving with the flow of the terrain, allowing the camels to rest when they tire, and guiding them towards hidden sources of water. The sun beats down, testing your resolve, but you press on, fueled by the knowledge that your actions directly impact the fate of those around you. Each step is a negotiation with the elements, each decision a balance between caution and efficiency. Fatigue sets in, but you push through, drawing strength from the shared purpose that binds your little world together. As night falls, Casting long shadows across the dunes, the caravan makes camp. With practiced efficiency, the tents are pitched, fires are lit, and a simple meal is shared under the watchful gaze of the stars. You find solace in the camaraderie of your fellow travelers, each bearing their own burdens and finding strength in shared stories and quiet companionship. The soft murmur of conversation drifts through the camp, weaving tales of home and hope, each voice a thread in the tapestry of human resilience. In the stillness of the night, with the desert wind whispering secrets at your tent, you reflect on the day's journey. The physical toll is evident in the ache of your muscles and the parched dryness of your throat, but it is outweighed by the profound sense of accomplishment that comes from each mile conquered. The bond between you and the camels deepens, their rhythmic gait a familiar lullaby, their presence a steadfast constant in a world of shifting sands. The moon climbs higher in the inky expanse above, serving as your guide as you navigate the unending sea of sand. You trust in the wisdom of your guides, their footsteps echoing the path of generations past. Suddenly, a discordant note pierces the silence. An animal cries out, its panicked bleating, a jarring interruption to the night's tranquility. Adrenaline surges through you as you spring into action. Years of experience have honed your instincts, teaching you to respond swiftly and decisively to the unexpected challenges that arise on the Silk Road. Grasping your scimitar, you move with purpose, joining the others in rushing to the source of the commotion. A lone wolf emerges from the darkness, its eyes gleaming with predatory intent. Your heart pounds in your chest as you stand shoulder to shoulder with your companions, ready to defend the caravan. The following morning, the tranquility of the camp is shattered by the chilling sight of one of your camels lying slain, its lifeless eyes staring blankly at the endless expanse of sand. A profound sense of loss and urgency washes over you. The death of one of your beasts is not just a setback, it's a threat to the entire caravan's survival. Quickly assessing the situation, you rally your fellow travelers, sharing instructions and coordinating a plan of action. With the weight of responsibility pressing down on you, you make the difficult decision to press onwards, keeping a vigilant watch for any sign of danger. Trusting your instincts and the bonds forged with your fellow travelers, you navigate the treacherous terrain, driven by the knowledge that your actions directly impact the fate of the caravan. Days turn into weeks, the relentless sun beating down on you and your companions as you traverse the unforgiving terrain. The death of your camel weighs heavily on your mind, serving as a stark reminder of the constant challenges that test your resolve. Despite the hardships, the allure of Samarkand keeps you moving forward. The prospect of reaching the fabled city with its rich bazaars and untold riches spurs you on. The thought of returning to China with a successful mission, having secured your master's fortune, gives you strength to endure. As you approach Samarkand, the landscape begins to shift, offering glimpses of the fabled oasis that awaits. The sight of lush greenery and the murmur of flowing water stir excitement within you, promising respite from the harsh realities of the desert. But as you enter the city's bustling confines, you're met with a sobering reality. The streets are filled with soldiers, and the air is thick with tension. The Great Khan has declared war on China, turning the city you once hoped to profit in into a battleground. Fear grips you, threatening to paralyze your every move. The prospect of being caught in the crossfire sends chills down your spine, forcing you to confront the very real possibility that your journey may end not in triumph, but in tragedy. What do you do? Choose wisely, for your actions will determine not only your fate, but the fate of all who have entrusted you with their hopes and dreams. The fate of the Silk Road hangs in the balance. Will you rise to meet the challenge? Or will the ancient trade route wither away into chaos? Only you can decide. Your caravan winds its way through the ochre sands of the Sahara, a sea of rippling gold broken only by the occasional rocky outcrop or lone palm tree struggling against the wind. The sun beats down relentlessly, and the air shimmers with heat, distorting the shapes of the dunes and making mirages dance on the horizon. At your side walks Old Wisdom, her leathery face weathered by countless journeys across this unforgiving landscape. Her eyes, dark pools of knowing, seem to see all. Her movements economical, her steps sure-footed. And then it begins. A small trickle at first, like a shy maiden drawing back her veil, hesitant, yet determined to quench the parched earth. Then more water, gushing forth, cascading down ancient rock-strewn paths, finding new life and vigor in the sandy embrace of the desert. From the sky, it would be a sight to behold, a silver ribbon snaking its way between emerald crags. But here, swallowed by the immensity of the canyon walls, you can only hear the roar of the torrent echoing around you. Your caravan moves forward at a steady pace, not breaking into a run until the torrent is past. Even Old Wisdom doesn't break into a trot, though there's nothing in her stance that suggests fear. If there were danger, she would rather die than turn back. And as long as the river is not in flood, you trust that she will carry you safely to the other side. You find yourself on a narrow ledge overlooking a sheer drop into the churning water below. The path ahead is lost beneath the raging torrent, and the bridge that usually spans the canyon seems to have been swept away. With no way forward, you and your fellow travelers are forced to seek shelter in a cave carved into the canyon wall, huddled together against the rising wind and rain. Thunder booms overhead and lightning illuminates the anxious faces around you. Some pray fervently, others strike up an impromptu game of dice, while still others tell tales of daring escapes from certain death. Old Wisdom stands close by, her head lowered, her eyes never leaving the roiling river below. Though she does not speak, her very presence seems to say, "Fear not." And you find yourself trusting in her wisdom and strength. When the storm finally passes, you emerge from the cave to find the world transformed. The air is fresh and cool, the light soft and diffused by the clouds that have replaced the relentless sun. In the distance, you see the wrecked remains of the bridge, a testament to the river's sudden and violent temper. Ahead, the path is washed clean, almost slippery underfoot. There is no sign of Old Wisdom, nor any indication of how she plans to get you across this treacherous terrain. Yet somehow, you feel no fear, only a strange sense of calm and confidence in the face of danger. As if sensing your thoughts, Old Wisdom lifts her head and lets out a low whistle, a sharp, clear sound that cuts through the stillness of the ruined city. It is a call to action, a signal that echoes through the empty streets, unanswered. You adjust your grip on the reins, feeling the tension in Old Wisdom's powerful neck as she responds to your slightest touch. Together, you navigate the labyrinthine alleys, your senses on high alert for any sign of danger or disturbance. The silence is heavy, broken only by the soft thud of your camel-esque feet on the sun-baked stone and the rustle of your own clothing as you move. Then you see it, a flicker of movement in the corner of your eye, a shadow that seems to detach itself from the wall, coiling and uncoiling like a slumbering serpent. Startled, you whip around, your hand instinctively reaching for the dagger at your belt. There, perched on the edge of a crumbling fountain, sits a solitary figure. Their features are hidden in the shadows of a tattered hood, but their eyes gleam like polished emeralds, fixed intently on you. Time seems to stop. All sound fades away, and your heart pounds in your chest like a trapped bird. What do they want? Are they friend or foe? And what brings them to this desolate place? In the end, it is Old Wisdom who breaks the silence, stepping forward with a calm confidence that seems to disarm the figure in the shadows. They rise slowly, revealing themselves to be a wizened old man with a long, flowing beard and robes the color of desert sand. His eyes, though keen and sharp, hold a gentleness that does not betray his wild appearance. He extends a gnarled hand in greeting and speaks in a voice like rustling leaves. "Welcome, traveler. What brings you to this forgotten city?" You hesitate for a moment, weighing your options, unsure whether to trust the stranger or to continue on your way. But something in the old man's demeanor, perhaps the quiet power in his outstretched hand, or the wisdom that seems to emanate from his very being, convinces you to stay. You spend many days in the oasis, tending the crops and caring for the animals, and many nights sitting around the fire listening to the old man's tales. He speaks of a time when the city was a bustling hub of trade and culture, a crossroads of civilizations where merchants from distant lands came to barter their exotic wares. He tells of great kings and queens who ruled over vast empires, of legendary heroes and mythical creatures that roamed the deserts and oases. And he shares with you the secrets of desert survival, how to read the stars, how to find water in the most barren landscapes, and how to harness the power of the elements. As the days turn into weeks, a deep bond forms between you and the old man. You learn from him, yes, but he also listens intently when you share your own stories and experiences. And in the quiet moments, when the fire has died down and the stars are out in full force, sense a profound connection between you both, a communion of souls that transcends the boundaries of age and experience. When you finally decide to leave the oasis and continue on your journey, you do so with a heavy heart. You bid farewell to the old man, thanking him for his wisdom and hospitality. And as you ride away, you look back to see his hunched figure silhouetted against the setting sun, waving until you are out of sight. The desert wind whips through your hair, carrying with it the scent of sand and sagebrush. The endless dunes seem to stretch on forever, unbroken and unchanging. Yet you no longer feel the same sense of disorientation or fear that you did before. The desert, once a harsh and unforgiving mistress, now feels like an old friend, familiar and comforting. You understand its rhythms and its moods, and you know that as long as you respect its laws, it will not harm you. The sun beats down mercilessly, turning the air into a shimmering haze. The camels move at a slower pace, their bodies heavy with fatigue. But you press on, driven by the need to reach your destination before nightfall. Suddenly, Old Wisdom stops in her tracks, snorting and pawing the ground. Her ears are swiveled towards a distant sound, a rhythmic thumping that grows louder by the moment. Startled, you glance at the darkening sky and realize that a sandstorm is approaching. With grim determination, you gather your strength, urging Old Wisdom forward. The wind rises, whipping sand into your eyes and mouth, stinging like 1,000 tiny needles. Visibility drops to a few feet, and the next few moments are pure terror. Caravan jostles and strains against the invisible ropes of wind, buffeted like a leaf in a storm. The camels scream, their terror echoing your own. Then suddenly, Old Wisdom stumbles. One of her legs buckles beneath her, sending a jolt of panic through you. With a Herculean effort, you scramble off the camel's back and help her to her feet. But even as you do, the wind snatches at her again, threatening to knock her over once more. For a terrifying moment, you fear that you may lose her, that the storm may prove too strong for even her mighty frame. But inch by agonizing inch, you and the others guide the caravan forward, battling against the elements to reach the safety of the oasis. Just when hope seems about to die, you see it through the swirling sand, a faint glimmer of light in the gathering gloom. With renewed strength, you urge the camels onward. The light grows brighter, leading you like a beacon to the welcoming shade of the palm trees. Safe at last in the oasis, you tend to Old Wisdom's wounds, soothing her battered body and reassuring her with gentle words. The storm passes and dawn breaks, revealing a world transformed by wind and sand. As you survey the damage, you realize that you and Old Wisdom have survived one of the most harrowing ordeals the desert can throw at a traveler. You are bruised and battered, but alive. And as you look into Old Wisdom's knowing eyes, you know that whatever challenges lie ahead, you will face them together, a seasoned team, ready to take on whatever the desert throws their way. We traveled for hours today, and yet it feels like we have moved across a much vaster expanse. The road ahead seems to stretch endlessly towards a haze on the horizon, and although the sky is a pale blue overhead, there is little relief from the relentless sun. There is something almost unnerving about how the same colors repeat again and again. It is like being inside a giant bowl of tan sand and gravel. All the world seems to be variations on this color. My eyes must be deceiving me, I think, as I try to make out some darker shapes through the shimmering heat waves rising off the ground. Are there rocks up ahead? I squint, trying to get a better look. I do not want to waste water asking the others only to find that what I saw was a trick of the light. Our supply is already low, and we still have many days to travel before reaching our next stop. I am here to collect teas from the Western Caravan. Their journey began many weeks ago in Kashgar, deep in the heart of China's Taklamakan Desert. For them, these endless sands have been their constant companion for so long now that they read the subtle clues of this landscape like a well-worn book. They know where to look for the telltale signs that indicate water might be found beneath the surface. Where the slightest discoloration of sand might reveal the remains of an ancient riverbed. Where the arrangement of stones suggests that other travelers have passed this way and left markers for those who follow. The silence of the desert is not truly silent at all, I have learned. It is filled with the soft whisper of sand shifting in the wind, the rhythmic pad of camel feet against hard earth, the occasional creak of leather pack straps, and the distant cry of a hawk circling high overhead. These sounds become the soundtrack of my days, as familiar and comforting as the chanting of monks in a distant monastery. And when the sun climbs highest in the sky and the air shimmers with heat, I learn to recognize the signs of midday. The camels begin to slow, their knees sinking to the ground in a gesture of gratitude, and the men seek whatever shade can be found. Sometimes nothing more than the shadow cast by a camel-less body or the meager protection offered by a stunted desert tree. It is then that I perform my second daily ritual, the careful inspection of my tea bundles. Each day, I untie one packet from each variety, just to ensure that the precious leaves within remain dry and intact. The silk wrappings are warm to the touch, heated by the desert sun. But inside, they maintain the perfect environment for my cargo. I breathe in the concentrated essence that escapes when I open each bundle, the grassy sweetness of green tea, the malty richness of black tea, the mysterious earthiness of aged purr. Sometimes, if water supplies permit, I will brew a small pot of tea during this midday rest. Not the communal morning ceremony, but a private moment of quality control, tasting each variety to ensure that the long journey has not diminished their character. And oh, how good the tea tastes in this vast emptiness, each sip a small miracle that cools my body from within, while the liquid itself steams in my cup. Although we have traveled for many days, our route remains fixed. We follow an ancient path used for centuries by traders traveling between east and west. To deviate from this path is dangerous, even for the most experienced traveler. Without landmarks or any clear indication of direction, it is easy to become lost forever in this sea of sand. But the caravan follows the subtle clues of the desert like a ship navigating by the stars. I watch the men at work, their bodies silhouetted against the setting sun. They use a simple instrument called a yan, a staff about 2 meters in length with a vertical groove running along its entire length. By holding the yan vertically and noting which way the sun falls in the groove, they can determine true south. With that information, they can navigate accurately using the stars in the night sky. They can also determine the time of day by observing how the shadow of a vertical object changes in length over time. They also pay attention to the position of the sun relative to certain landmarks, such as mountains or distinctive rock formations. I listen intently as the men exchange stories and jokes, their voices carrying on the evening breeze. While their words may be lost to me, their laughter and general merriment are a universal language that speaks of camaraderie and resilience in the face of adversity. As the temperature drops and the sky turns a deep indigo, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. While the heat of the desert during the day can be oppressive, the nights are often pleasantly cool. As darkness falls, the desert comes alive with nocturnal creatures. I can hear the rustling of small animals in the underbrush, and the occasional hoot of an owl echoes in the stillness. The vastness of the desert sky is breathtaking. With minimal light pollution, the stars shine with an intensity that is humbling. I find myself gazing at the Milky Way, tracing constellations and feeling a sense of wonder at the immensity of the universe. Around me, the men roll out their prayer mats and face Mecca, their bodies swaying gently as they recite verses from the Quran. The quiet murmur of their prayers mingles with the sounds of the desert, creating a haunting melody that stirs something deep within me. It is a reminder of the spiritual depth that connects us despite our different backgrounds and beliefs. The rhythmic scrape of a knife against a stone fills the air as one of the men prepares our evening meal. The simplicity of our fare never fails to amaze me. Often, it consists of staples like rice, bread, or noodles, accompanied by dried vegetables or perhaps a bit of meat. Yet in this austere setting, the meal becomes a celebration of sustenance and community. The process of cooking involves a shared effort. Men gather around the fire, each contributing a task, until a simple supper is ready. The act of preparing and sharing a meal strengthens bonds and creates a sense of camaraderie that transcends words. Afterwards, with our bellies full, I settle down for the night. Sleep comes easily, and I dream of oases in distant lands. The gentle rocking of the desert and the rhythmic breathing of camels lull me into a peaceful slumber. In the morning, I awake to the soft crunch of gravel beneath the caravan's wheels. The early hours of the day bring a sense of tranquility as the desert awakens from its slumber. I watch as the men prepare for the day ahead, tending to their camels, packing supplies, and checking their equipment. There is a sense of purpose and efficiency in their movements. Born from years of experience traversing these unforgiving lands, as the sun begins its ascent, I join the others in a shared ritual. We gather around a small fire, sharing stories, jokes, and news from the various settlements we've visited along the way. In this moment, the bonds of community strengthen, and I feel a sense of belonging among these fellow travelers. The offering of tea during this time is an important part of our cultural exchange. Each of us brings a different variety of tea, and after boiling water over the fire, we pour the steaming liquid into small bowls or cups. The tea is served with respect to elders, and there is a quiet moment of contemplation before we partake. The taste of the tea fills my mouth, a comforting warmth that blends with the sights and sounds of the desert. It is a blend of tradition, community, and the rugged beauty of the landscape that makes this moment so special. Though the spice root is renowned across the known world for its wealth and danger to many young men like yourself, it represents something more, an opportunity to prove yourself, to step outside the confines of your family and hometown, and forge a new identity in the crucible of high-stakes trade. You have left behind the familiar hills and valleys of Fujian province and set out across the Eurasian continent to bring prized Chinese tea to the markets of Persia. Along with, you have traveled several companions, each with their own hopes and dreams for the future. There is Lao Shi, your mentor and the owner of the tea you have been entrusted to deliver. Calm and unflappable, he seems to possess an almost supernatural ability to read the intentions of others. Li Yuan, whose youthful enthusiasm matches your own, but whose inexperience means that he often needs guidance. Namad, whose knowledge of Central Asian languages and customs makes him invaluable to the group. Together you have formed a bond of camaraderie that will sustain you through the challenges ahead. Now, after weeks on the road, the caravan has reached the heart of the Turpan Depression, a region so remote and barren that many travelers go mad. Here, water is scarce and shade is non-existent, meaning that there is little respite from the punishing sun. Supplies are low and the temperature climbs ever higher, leading to a crisis that threatens to tear your little group apart. Though the Central Asian summer can be brutally hot, the nights are blessedly cool, allowing for some respite from the sun's harsh glare. It is during these precious hours that you learn more about your companions. Lao, she speaks little of himself, but from the respect in the eyes of the others, you know that he is highly regarded in Fujian. He tells you that he was once one of the top 3 tea tasters in the imperial court, but chose to leave that life behind to pursue a simpler, freer existence as a traveling merchant. Li Yuan confesses that he ran away from home to join you on this trip, hoping to impress you with his bravery and resourcefulness. Ahmad, ever the pragmatist, points out that running away from home is hardly an accomplishment and chides Li Yuan for forgetting his manners. Despite the occasional tension, there's a strong sense of community among the travelers. When Ahmad falls ill, you stay by his side, tending to his needs and ensuring that he receives the best possible care. In return, he teaches you the proper way to brew Persian chai, a strong black tea flavored with cardamom, cinnamon, and cloves. The shared experience of hardship and healing deepens your bonds, reminding you that your fate is intertwined with that of your companions. As the journey continues, you encounter other travelers making their way across the Turpan Depression. Some are merchants like yourselves, while others are pilgrims or refugees fleeing war and famine. Each encounter offers a chance to learn about the wider world, to exchange goods and information, and to test your own beliefs and values against those of outsiders. One evening, as the men sit around the campfire, sharing stories and jokes, you notice a young woman named Fatima sitting quietly to one side. She is the daughter of the caravan's leader, and you soon learn that she is betrothed to Li Yuan in an arranged marriage. Though the two had only met a few days earlier, you see the spark of affection between them and hope that their union will bring them happiness. However, not all encounters are so pleasant. One day, the caravan is attacked by a group of horse thieves. In the ensuing chaos, you find yourself separated from your companions and must rely on your wits and courage to survive the ordeal. The attack leaves you shaken, but also gives you a newfound respect for the dangers of the trade. You realize that success as a merchant requires not only good judgment, but also a bit of luck. Though the Turpan Depression is one of the hottest places on Earth, it is also one of the driest, meaning that water is as precious as gold. Each traveler must ration their supplies carefully, and finding a reliable source of fresh water becomes a top priority. Fortunately, you remember hearing rumors of a hidden spring deep within the depression and decide to risk it all and seek it out. The search leads you and your companions on a wild goose chase filled with false leads and dwindling hopes. Just when you are about to give up, you spot a lone tree in the distance and make your way toward it, desperate for any shade it can offer. To your immense relief, you discover a small pool of water at the tree's base and quickly fill your containers to the brim. The discovery rejuvenates your spirit and reminds you of the importance of hope in the darkest of times. The worst of the Turpin depression behind you, you and your companions finally reach the oasis of Shosh, a welcome sight after weeks on the road. The bustling city is a hub of activity with merchants from all over Asia gathered together to buy and sell their wares. The streets are filled with the sights, sounds, and smells of exotic foods, colorful textiles, and fragrant spices. Eager to stretch your legs after weeks on the road, you join the other travelers in exploring the city's many wonders. You visit the Great Mosque, marveling at its intricate architecture and vibrant community of Muslim worshippers. You sample the local cuisine, including juicy pomegranates, grilled lamb kebabs, and sweet coconut candy. The brief respite gives you the energy to continue your journey, but it also presents new challenges. It's in a bustling marketplace. You must navigate the crowds and compete with other merchants for the best deals on supplies. With tensions high and tempers flaring, you learn the importance of patience, respect, and compromise in achieving your goals. The journey from Shosh to Kashgar is fraught with peril, from treacherous mountain passes to bands of roving bandits. Through it all, your caravan presses on, relying on the skill of their guide, the strength of their camels, and the camaraderie that has grown among the travelers. When one of the camels falls ill, you and the others work together to nurse it back to health, knowing that the animal's well-being is essential to the success of the mission. Despite the hardships, you find solace in the beauty of the surrounding mountains and the promise of adventure that lies ahead. As you approach Kashgar, a city rich in history and culture, you know that you are nearing the end of your journey. But the challenges and opportunities that await you there are yet to be seen. Weeks have passed since leaving the relative safety of Shosh, and now the full force of the Central Asian winter is upon you. Snow and ice make the going slow and treacherous, and the dwindling daylight means that you must make haste if you are to reach your destination before nightfall. Yet despite the harsh conditions, there is a certain majesty to the frozen landscape, and you find yourself marveling at the stark beauty of ice-jammed streams and snow-laden trees. The isolation of the journey brings the group even closer together, and you find yourself confiding your deepest hopes and fears to Li Yuan one evening as the wind howls around your tent. He listens patiently, offering words of comfort and encouragement when needed. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the swirling snow, startling you and Li Yuan. It is Ahmad who, despite the bitter cold, is drenched in sweat and gasping for breath. He stammers out a warning about an approaching blizzard and collapses to the ground, succumbing to the freezing temperatures. Grief-stricken, you and Li Yuan rush to Ahmed's side, but there is nothing you can do. The icy grip of death has already taken hold. Ahmed's passing weighs heavily on your heart, but you know that you must press on if you are to honor his memory. With renewed determination, you help bury him beneath a cairn of stones and continue on your way to Kashgar. As you journey through the frozen wasteland, you begin to notice subtle changes in the landscape, signs that indicate you are nearing civilization. The frozen ground gives way to packed dirt. The frozen streams become more frequent, and the sky, though still harsh, shows a hint of blue. Then, in the distance you see it, a cluster of buildings huddled together against the cold. Smoke curling from their chimneys, a beacon of hope in the frozen wasteland. With renewed vigor, you and Li Yuan pick up your pace, eager to reach the city and pay tribute to Ahmad's memory. Kashgar is a city like no other, a melting pot of cultures and home to some of the finest tea houses in all of Central Asia. The bazaars are a feast for the eyes and the stomach, offering everything from spices and silks to freshly grilled meats and sweet pastries. But amidst the hustle and bustle, you cannot shake the feeling that you are being watched, that there are dangers lurking in the shadows just waiting to strike. You and Li Yuan take a room in a small inn, its courtyard filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the sound of trickling fountains. The respite from the harsh weather allows you to relax and enjoy the city's many attractions. You and Li Yuan visit the bustling Sunday market, a riot of colors, textures, and aromas where you purchase fresh fruit, fragrant spices, and handcrafted souvenirs. The highlight of your visit is a trip to the famous Tashkorgan Madrasah, a grand Islamic school renowned for its exquisite tile work and serene atmosphere. But the tranquility of the city is shattered when a mysterious illness begins to spread, causing fever, weakness, and even death in some cases. Fear and suspicion grip the populace, and you and Leon find yourselves caught in the middle. Tasked with delivering a potentially life-saving remedy to an ailing merchant, you must race against time and prejudice to reach him before it's too late. In the tense struggle to save the merchant's life, you and Li Yuan confront not only the physical perils of the journey, but also the deeply ingrained biases of the people you encounter along the way. The fate of the merchant hangs in the balance, forcing you to make difficult decisions and stand up for what you believe in. Despite the challenges, you succeed in delivering the remedy and saving the merchant's life, but not without making powerful enemies. The experience leaves you disillusioned by the depths of human cruelty, but also hopeful for the power of compassion and understanding in an often uncaring world. You awaken before the sun rises, though whether it is dawn or dusk is impossible to tell under this unrelenting sky. Stretching out beside you, your companions are still locked in sleep, their faces pale in the dim light filtering through the tent. You rise, careful not to disturb them. Your joints ache from yesterday's journey and the relentless jolting of the wagon beds. Your back is stiff from days of bending over bales of silk, your hands calloused from handling lengths of hempen cloth. But there is no time to linger in the luxury of rest. Already you can hear the shouts of vendors setting up their stalls in the nearby town. Breakfast is a hasty affair. Dried meat softened in hot water, flatbread that has traveled well despite the heat. Perhaps a handful of dried fruits or nuts, but there is little appetite for anything more substantial. No one speaks much as they eat, for words are cheap and plentiful, but good sleep is a treasure in short supply. After breakfast, there is nothing to do but wait. So you lie down again, watching the plays of light and shadow on the canvas above you. When the other two occupants of your wagon rouse, you will set out again. There is no schedule to your travels, only the constant forward motion dictated by the whims of the Silk Road, which are many and varied. There could be a delay of hours or even days, or perhaps you will be lucky enough to continue on your way soon. Patience is a virtue you have learned well, for if you wish to succeed in this life, you must be patient. When the caravan master gives the signal to pack up, you follow the others outside, blinking in the sudden brightness. The sky is cloudless, the air motionless. Already the sun is beginning its slow climb toward the zenith. You help load the wagons, secure the tents, then follow the line of camels and men toward the distant town. As you walk, your gaze sweeps over the unchanging landscape, taking in every detail. For a keen observer, there is much to learn from the land itself, from the types of vegetation to the tracks in the sand, the quality of the soil, all clues to the presence or absence of water, of people, of potential danger ahead. Though the road stretches endlessly before you, you know that everything is interconnected here on the Silk Road, and what happens today may have repercussions tomorrow. The evening meal is simple, but satisfying. Dried meat softened in hot water, flatbread that has traveled well despite the heat, perhaps a handful of dried fruits or nuts. But the true centerpiece of the evening is always the tea. As darkness settles over the desert and the first stars begin to appear in the crystalline sky, you gather around the fire for the day's most important ceremony. When the tea master asks you to come closer to the fire, you know it is your turn to prepare the communal brew. You select carefully from your stock, perhaps, a delicate jasmine tea whose floral notes will provide a gentle end to the harsh day, or a robust black tea that will warm the body against the coming cold. The water heated over the fire until it just begins to whisper, receives the leaves like an offering. You watch the familiar transformation as the dried leaves unfurl and release their essence, turning the clear water into liquid poetry. The first cup always goes to Chen Wei, in acknowledgement of his age and experience, receives it with the slight bow that courtesy demands, inhaling the aroma before tasting. His nod of approval is all the praise you need. Chun Wei's palate has been refined by 30 years on the tea roots, and his approval means that you have maintained the quality that your reputation depends upon. As the cups pass around the circle, conversation flows as gently as the tea itself. The guards share information about conditions ahead. Rumor of bandits in the Fergana Valley, news of a merchant who found unexpected welcome in a Sogdian city. Gossip about the political situation in the various kingdoms and city-states that control. Different sections of the Silk Road, the young apprentices listen with wide eyes, storing away every piece of information that might prove useful in their own future careers. But often the most treasured moments are those of comfortable silence, when the only sounds are the occasional crack of the fire and the vast whisper of wind across the desert. In these moments, cradling your warm cup between your hands, you feel connected to something eternal. To all the merchants who have sat around similar fires along these same routes to the tea masters whose skill created the liquid, you are drinking to the vast network of human connection that spans continents and centuries. You wake before sunrise, though whether it is dawn or dusk is impossible to tell under this unrelenting sky. The vast openness of the desert is both exhilarating and terrifying. It is a place without shelter, where the elements rule supreme and fortunes are made and lost in the blink of an eye. Here, survival depends on preparation, patience, and a bit of luck. But there is no time to dwell on such thoughts now. Already you can hear the familiar cries of the caravan waking and stirring. The rhythmic clatter of pots and pans blends with the murmur of men's voices, the soft thud of loading cargo, the occasional bray of an impatient camel. You rise, careful not to disturb the slumbering forms around you. The tent is cramped and shadows cling stubbornly, even in the brightest hours. You dress quickly, pulling on layers of linen and wool as you go. Each movement is precise and economical. There is no time for dawdling here. Outside, the desert stretches endlessly in all directions. The sky is a brilliant dome above you, and the horizon seems to shimmer with heat haze. In the distance, the mountains stand guard, their peaks wreathed in mist. It is a stark and beautiful landscape that never fails to impress, but you have seen it many times before, and there is work to be done. You join the others, helping to secure the tents and gather supplies. The routine is ingrained in your bones after years of travel. Soon you are following the line of wagons deeper into the heart of the desert. The road is rough and uneven, a testament to the countless caravans that have traveled it before you. The wheels of your wagon rumble and shake, kicking up dust devils that dance in the hot air. You keep your eyes sharp, alert for any sign of trouble. Bandits, wild animals, and treacherous terrain are ever-present dangers on the Silk Road. A moment's lapse in attention could spell disaster. But for now, the only sounds are the creak of wheels, the murmur of voices, and the steady clip-clop of hooves on hard ground. The heat grows as the hours pass. By midday, the sun is a searing presence overhead, draining the moisture from your skin and the parched earth. You wipe the sweat from your brow, your throat dry and scratchy. There is little water to spare, so you drink sparingly, rationing each precious drop. Still, the caravan moves steadily forward, guided by the ancient roots and the instincts of men who have walked this path for generations. As the sun begins its long descent, you see a welcome sight in the distance, the tents of a rest stop. Relief washes over you as you approach, the prospect of rest and water spurring you onward. Soon you are helping unload the wagons, setting up camp and gathering firewood. With practiced efficiency, you move among the tents, a silent observer of the drama unfolding within. The old merchant is arguing with the caravan master. Their voices are raised, their words sharp and angry. You don't know the details of their dispute, but you can sense that it has to do with the safety of the route and the wisdom of continuing the journey. Bandits are a constant threat on the Silk Road, and the caravan master has the responsibility of ensuring their safety. But the old merchant fears for his life and the lives of his companions. The debate rages, each man digging in his heels, unwilling to yield. You stand by, waiting for the decision that will affect all of you. Finally, the caravan master speaks, his voice firm and decisive. He has chosen to press on. There is no time to lose. The journey must continue. You hear a shout in the distance, and all heads turn towards the sound. A lone rider is racing towards you, his face obscured by a dust cloud. As he gets closer, you see that he is carrying a message in a sealed scroll. Caravan master breaks the seal and reads the contents, his face paling. This is bad news, you can tell even before he speaks. The bandits are close, too close for comfort. You know what this means? The peaceful night's sleep you were looking forward to will be replaced by the hard edge of a sword and the ever-present fear of what might happen next. The caravan master turns to the group, his face grim. There is little time to waste. They must move now and hope to outrun the danger that is pursuing them. With a heavy heart, you follow the caravan master's instructions. You grab your belongings, help secure the wagons, and mount your camel.
Oh.
As you ride out into the darkening desert, the last rays of sunlight paint the sky in hues of orange and red. The silhouette of the lone rider stands out starkly against the fiery backdrop. You know that he has stayed behind to hold off the bandits, to buy you precious time. In the fading light, you can almost hear his shout carried on the wind, urging you to go faster to escape the danger that threatens to engulf you. The night is filled with peril and uncertainty. The moon is a distant, cold observer as you ride blindly through the darkness. The wind whispers through the canyons, creating eerie echoes that play tricks on your ears. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig sends a jolt of fear through you. But you keep moving forward, driven by the adrenaline that courses through your veins and the knowledge that the safety of the entire caravan rests on your shoulders. Suddenly, a guttural shout pierces the darkness. The bandits are close. You urge your camel on, its pace quickening in response to your touch. The desert flies by in a blur of sand and shadow. The sound of pursuing footsteps pounds in your ears, drumming up a rhythm of fear. Will you escape the danger that stalks you? Only time will tell. I have walked among giants today. They stand silent and stoic against the endless blue, unchanging for millennia. And yet it was not they, but we who moved. We trekked across the sands for hours on the backs of ships of the desert, our camels. They too changed not, bearing us tirelessly across the rippling dunes like tireless dhows scudding before the wind. Yet it was we who changed, or at least I hope we did. For as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of apricot and rose, then faded to reveal the Milky Way in all its glory, I felt something shift within me. It was as if the immensity of the heavens and the constancy of the earth had a way of stripping away pretense, leaving only what was essential, the petty squabbles, the trivial worries, the anxieties that seemed so pressing just hours before, now felt unbearably small, childish even. In the face of such timeless grandeur, what were our concerns but the whisper of wind in the dunes? This has been happening to me more and more since I set out on this journey to find the source of the world's greatest tea. Each night, as the stars emerge in their billions, unpolluted by any city lights, so bright and numerous that they seem close enough to touch, I have learned some of their names and patterns from the guides, how they serve as a celestial map for navigation. But beyond their practical utility, they provide a sense of perspective that helps put the day's small hardships and concerns into their proper context. Beneath this vast dome of stars, with a cup of perfectly brewed tea warming my hands, the problems of the world seem manageable, the future full of gentle possibilities. And yet our little band of travelers are tested in many ways on this long journey. Today brought high winds and shifting sands, forcing us to abandon the main road in favor of a shorter but rockier route. Old Wisdom, one of our 2 matriarch camels, stumbled on the treacherous path and fell heavily, scraping her knees and sides on the rough terrain. While she was unhurt, the mishap left her shaken and anxious, refusing to rise for nearly an hour. Our guide, a wizened man named Hassan, with eyes as deep and endless as the desert itself, coaxed her back up with calm words and steady hands. He spoke softly to her in the ancient tongue of the Berbers, words that were as soothing to my ears as the sound of flowing water in a dry land. As I helped tend to Old Wisdom, sharing soothing words with her in my halting Arabic, I felt a surge of affection for these noble creatures that have been our companions for over a week now. They are patient, strong, and sure-footed, enduring the harsh conditions of the desert with a quiet dignity that belies their immense size and strength. I think of them often as camels, those who carry burdens with grace, because they are doing just that, carrying us ever closer to our destination. But they also carry within them an ancient history, a legacy that stretches back thousands of years. As I gaze at their distinctive humps, laden with precious cargo, I am reminded of the countless caravans that have traversed these very sands before us, each carrying its own hopes, dreams, and hardships. The camels are not just beasts of burden. They are living repositories of history, silent witnesses to the ebb and flow of human endeavor across the ages. We make camp again tonight under a sky so clear and brilliant that it takes my breath away. There are nights when the air is so cold that my breath plumes before my eyes, nights when the silence is so profound that I feel as though I could reach out and touch the infinite expanse above me. The stars are my constant companions on this journey, and they have become more than just points of light in the darkness. They are friends, silent observers of our trials and triumphs, cheering us on with their unwavering brilliance. As the fire burns lower and yawns begin to appear around the circle, the evening's final ritual begins. The tea things are cleaned and packed away. The fire is banked to provide coals for the morning, and one by one, the members of your caravan retreat to their tents. The camp chores completed, I linger near the fire, watching the flames dance and flicker in the gathering darkness. When I turned to go to my tent, Hassan was there waiting for me, his eyes reflecting the firelight like polished obsidian. "You have been quiet tonight," he said, his voice a low rumble that echoed the crackling fire. "What troubles you?" I hesitated, surprised by his perceptiveness. How could he tell that I was struggling? How could he see through the facade I had carefully constructed? I knew I could not hide my thoughts and feelings from him much longer, so I let down my guard and poured out my heart to him. I told him about the doubts that plagued me, the fears that whispered in my ear telling me I was out of my depth, that I didn't belong in this harsh and unforgiving land. I told him about the loneliness that sometimes threatened to engulf me, the longing for the familiar comforts of home that seemed a world away. Hassan listened patiently, his gaze never wavering from mine. And when I finished speaking, he did not offer platitudes or empty reassurances. Instead, he spoke to me of resilience, of the strength that lay dormant within me, waiting to be awakened. He spoke of the importance of embracing the unknown, of welcoming the challenges that lay ahead as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. His words were like a balm to my soul, soothing the troubled waters within me. I felt lighter, stronger. Doubts and fears did not vanish completely, but they receded somewhat, pushed back by the warmth of his wisdom and the promise of the rising sun. The night is filled with the symphony of the desert. The wind whispers secrets to the dunes, and the sand shimmers like 1,000 tiny stars beneath our feet. Above us, the Milky Way stretches across the sky, a river of stars flowing endlessly into the infinite expanse of the cosmos. The air is crisp and cool, a welcome respite from the scorching heat of the day. It is a night for contemplation, for letting the vastness of the universe wash over me and carry away my cares and worries. Beneath this canopy of stars, I pour myself a cup of mint tea, its steam rising like a phantom in the darkness. The familiar ritual grounding me in the present moment, reminding me of the simple pleasures that life has to offer. As I sip the tea, its minty flavor dancing on my tongue, I think of the countless hands that have poured this very same drink across the centuries. Hands weathered by the sun and wind, hands that have toiled and traveled, hands that have shared stories and laughter around flickering fires just like this one. It is here, in the heart of the desert, far from the distractions of the modern world, that I feel most alive. Here I am, a speck of dust in the grand tapestry of time, connected to countless generations past and future who have traversed these very sands. Here I am reminded of the fragility and beauty of life, the fleeting nature of our existence in the face of the eternal mysteries of the cosmos. And yet it is precisely in this realization that I find solace and strength. For if I am but a small and transient being in the grand scheme of things, then so too are my worries and fears. They too are but grains of sand that can be swept away by the winds of change. When the first hints of dawn begin to paint the eastern sky with hues of apricot and rose, I rouse myself from my musings and turn toward my camel. Gold Wisdom stands patiently waiting for me, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the rising sun. As I approach her, she rumbles softly, her warm breath misting in the cool morning air. Her coat, the color of burnished copper, shimmers in the pale light, and her hump seems to glow with an inner radiance. I run my hands over her muscular neck, feeling the strength and power that lie beneath her skin. She's more than just a beast of burden. She's a partner, a companion on this arduous journey. She is old wisdom, and I am honored to be in her presence. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new miles of desert to cross, new tests of endurance and patience. But for now, there is only this moment of peace, this sense of completion that comes. From another day successfully navigated along the ancient paths of the Silk Road, I swing myself onto her back, settling into the familiar rhythm of our journey. As we begin our trek for the day, I know that we are not just traveling across the desert, we are journeying into the depths of ourselves, discovering strengths and resources we never knew we possessed. And I am grateful for every step, every mile, every challenge that brings us closer to our destination and closer to understanding the true source of the world's greatest tea. You awoke today in a new place, with wide open spaces and endless blue above you. This is heaven, you think, as you inhale the fresh air and feel the ground beneath you. But it's just another stop on your travels. What will tomorrow bring? Perhaps a rambling river, a mountain meadow, or a bustling town. The excitement of arrival fades quickly and you settle into your daily routine. Prepare food on the little stove inside your home on wheels, sharing jokes and stories with your companions. Then you pack up and move on, following roads both ancient and new. As you drift deeper into the rhythm of caravan life, your thoughts often turn to the stories shared around evening fires. Tales of other travelers who have walked these same paths in centuries past. Some were merchants seeking fortunes, others scholars or mystics on pilgrimage. Their journeys, like your own, were filled with challenges and wonders. But one story always captures your imagination. It is the tale of a man named Xuanzang, a Buddhist monk, who set out on a journey so extraordinary that it became a legend. It was the year 629, and Xuanzang lived in the great city of Chang'an, which would make it around 1400 years ago. Back then, Chang'an was the eastern terminus of the Silk Road, a vibrant hub where merchants from all over Asia gathered, bringing with them exotic goods and even more exotic tales. The city's streets were a melting pot of cultures, a symphony of languages, and its markets overflowed with treasures from the distant west. In the heart of this bustling metropolis stood the monastery of Jinku, a sanctuary of calm amidst the chaos. It was here that Xuanzang lived, a young monk whose name would echo through history. Xuanzang wasn't an ordinary monk. Though gentle and unassuming, he possessed an insatiable thirst for knowledge. His mind was a sponge, absorbing everything he read, and his heart was a compass, always pointing towards truth and understanding. He had already earned the title of one of the most learned monks in China, able to quote vast sections of Buddhist scriptures and engage in theological debates that could last for days. But despite his many accomplishments, he felt a growing unease within him. Like a pebble in his shoe, it nagged at his peace. He had studied the Buddhist texts available in China, and though they were numerous and revered, he couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that something was amiss. There were contradictions, gaps in narratives, and variations in teachings that made him question the authenticity of some scriptures. His solution, he believed, lay in the birthplace of Buddhism, India. It was there, in the ancient monasteries and hallowed halls of learning, that the original Sanskrit texts were preserved. The idea was almost unthinkable. To reach India meant crossing over 10,000 miles of rugged terrain, traversing through lands where war and banditry were commonplace, and where nature was as unforgiving as humanity. Yet Xuanzang couldn't ignore the call in his heart. He knew he had to go. He approached the imperial court in Chang'an and requested permission to undertake this arduous journey. The request was respectfully refused. Officials explained the dangers, the political uncertainties, and the lack of any tangible benefit for the empire. They advised him to focus on his studies within the safety of the monastery walls. Disappointed but resolute, Xuanzang retreated to Jinggu Temple. For months, he prepared secretly. He conversed with fellow monks, some excited by his plans, others deeply concerned. He studied maps, poring over ancient texts to trace the routes his predecessors had taken to India. He practiced with a walking stick, readying himself for the long journey on foot. And when everything was in order, he made a small offering at the temple altar, asking for guidance and protection. Then came the night of departure, a moonless night in 629 Xuanzang. Like a phantom, slipped out of Chang'an under the cover of darkness. All that was known about his journey came from the records of his companion Yejing, who joined him after he'd already walked several hundred miles. By the time they met, Xuanzang's resolve was evident, though his manner was modest. Despite being heavily veiled in monk's robes, yet Jing sensed an inner strength in Xuanzang that inspired him to keep going. Their journey began in relative safety, following established routes where merchants often traveled. They navigated through bustling cities and serene countryside, stopping at temples along the way to rest and replenish their supplies. As they moved westward, the landscape changed. Fertile fields gave way to rougher terrains, signaling their entry into the dangerous regions beyond the empire's control. Here, Xuanzang's knowledge of Buddhist scriptures proved invaluable. His keen understanding of local customs and traditions helped them navigate through areas where Chinese visitors were often viewed with suspicion. In one instance, they encountered a ruler who tested them with riddles and parables. Only Xuanzang, drawing upon Buddhist philosophy, could answer correctly, impressing the ruler and gaining safe passage. The threat of bandits loomed large, forcing them to alter their route to avoid well-known danger zones. They often traveled at night, making their way through forests and mountains shrouded in darkness. Once they had to hide in caves, their peaceful surroundings marred by the echoes of distant screams from travelers who did not escape the bandits' clutches. But it wasn't just human threats they faced. The natural terrain was equally challenging. They crossed rivers swollen from rains, sometimes having to wait for days until the waters receded enough for them to cross. They scaled mountains, the thin air making each step a bit harder. But Xuanzang never faltered. Whenever fatigue threatened to overwhelm them, he would share stories and teachings from the Buddhist texts, reminding them of their purpose and boosting their spirits. After 6 years of hardship and peril, the sight of the next morning's sunrise brought tears to their eyes. Before them stretched the western regions, a land they had only heard of in stories. As they continued their journey, the language and customs began to shift. By the time they reached India, they were unrecognizable from the haggard travelers who had first set out from Chang'an. For they had journeyed not only across physical distances, but also through countless challenges that had tempered their spirits. They spent several years in India visiting holy sites, meeting fellow scholars, and of course obtaining the ancient Buddhist texts that were the purpose of their journey. It was a time of intense study, spiritual growth, and cultural immersion. Eventually it was time to return. They carried with them not just scriptures, but also seeds of Buddhism that would find fertile ground in China, influencing the faith's development in significant ways. Upon their return to Chang'an, they were greeted as heroes. The emperor, who had once dismissed Xuanzang's request, now welcomed him with great honor. Over the next decade, Xuanzang translated the texts he had brought back, sharing his knowledge and inspiring awe among fellow monks and scholars. He wrote about his experiences, providing a first-hand account of the lands and people he had encountered. And so, the legend of Xuanzang, the monk who walked 10,000 miles to bring the true word of Buddha to China, grew through the ages. It was a tale that inspired generations of scholars, adventurers, and pilgrims, reminding them that the pursuit of knowledge and spiritual enlightenment was worth any hardship and any risk. And as you sit around the campfire, listening to the old man's tales, you can't help but feel a surge of admiration for this remarkable monk. The thought of walking 10,000 miles on foot, facing all those hardships, seems almost impossible. Yet Xuanzang did it, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge and a deep sense of purpose. His story makes you wonder about the lengths you'd go to for your own dreams and aspirations. Maybe it's just a story, you think a myth from a bygone era. But maybe, just maybe, there's a lesson in it for all of us. Maybe it's a reminder that the greatest journeys aren't always measured in miles, but in the courage it takes to follow your path. With that, the old man's voice fades into the night, leaving you with the echoes of his tales and the warmth of the crackling fire. It was a path fraught with peril, a road less traveled, not just across desolate landscapes, but through treacherous human terrains. Haunted by war-torn cities and kingdoms locked in conflict, his destination, India, the fabled cradle of Buddhism, lay shrouded in mystery, failed by political storms and natural barriers, yet Xuanzang's resolve remained steadfast, nourished by his spiritual calling and bolstered by his rigorous training as a scholar. His was a pilgrimage of the mind, a quest to bridge the gaps in Buddhist knowledge in his homeland. His journey began under the protective cloak of night, slipping out of Chang'an, now the Tang dynasty capital, now a silent silhouette against the moonlit sky. He walked away from the comforts of the Jingtu monastery, leaving behind the warm glow of oil lamp and chanting comrades. His heart beat in time with the rhythm of his steps on the ancient Silk Road, a pathway more familiar to merchants than monks, laden with silks, spices, and secrets. Days turned into weeks, and the vastness of the landscape became his only company. A panorama of rugged mountains, windswept plains, and the relentless sun beating down on his back. Each step was a test of endurance, each mile a battle against exhaustion and despair. To reach India, he had to navigate the perils of the Pamir Mountains, a treacherous labyrinth of high passes and hidden valleys. Here, amidst the towering peaks and thin air, the line between man and nature blurred. He scaled heights where the air thinned his resolve, hardening with each step. The beauty of the world unfolding before him, though, soothed his weary spirit, reminding him why he had embarked on this arduous journey. The sight of snow-capped mountains piercing the heavens, of crystal-clear lakes reflecting the sky, and of vibrant wildflowers blooming defiantly amidst the rocks were his solace. These majestic views whispered tales of creation, of nature's grandeur and resilience, reinforcing the strength that pulled him forward. Yet it was not just the natural world that tested his spirit. Along his route lay cities steeped in lore and legend, remnants of civilizations past and present. In these bustling urban hubs, he encountered different cultures, customs, and challenges. Each interaction was a lesson, each encounter a story waiting to be told. One such tale unfolded in the ancient city of Kashgar, where he found a thriving community of Buddhists. Here, amidst the exotic sights and sounds of a foreign land, he found solace and support. The local monks shared their scriptures with him, adding new chapters to his understanding of Buddhism. Their hospitality reminded him of the universality of kindness, transcending borders and beliefs. But as he moved further west, the atmosphere shifted. The war drums of the Tubo kingdom reverberated through the valleys, sending tremors of fear through his heart. The Tubo soldiers, fierce warriors from the Tibetan plateau, were known for their unmatched courage and martial skills. Their battles were as legendary as their bravery, and their kingdom as elusive as it was formidable. As Xuanzang navigated through these war-torn regions, every step was laden with the weight of uncertainty. He walked among soldiers readying their bows and quivers, feeling the tension of their gazes upon him. Was he a spy, missionary, or just another weary traveler? His identity, like his path, remained fluid, shaped by the perceptions of others. Amidst this volatile backdrop, he found refuge in the timeless teachings of his faith. The Buddhist principles of compassion, patience, and nonviolence became his compass, guiding him not just through the physical dangers, but also the ethical dilemmas he faced. Every time he was questioned, every time he had to prove his peaceful intentions, he stood firm, a beacon of tranquility in a sea of turmoil. His unshakable faith and peaceful demeanor slowly chipped away at the soldiers' suspicion, turning hostility into curiosity and fear into respect. And when they saw that he was not deterred by the threat of danger, but pressed on with unwavering determination, they couldn't help but be impressed. Some even began to question their own violent ways, pondering the strength that allowed this frail monk to walk fearlessly into the jaws of danger. From the military checkpoints, he moved on to the bustling cities of Central Asia, each one a melting pot of cultures and a testament to the Silk Road's glory. In these vibrant hubs, he traded his simple fare for local delicacies, relishing the taste of pomegranates plucked fresh from branches, the tang of pickled cucumbers, and the warmth of freshly baked bread. The bazaars, or marketplaces, became his classroom. He bartered for goods while learning about regional customs, languages, and trade practices. The skills he acquired here were invaluable, turning every transaction into a lesson, every haggle into a cultural exchange. These journeys across Central Asia were not merely geographical crossings, but profound spiritual and intellectual voyages. Each step took him farther from the familiar landscapes of China, plunging him into the heart of uncharted territories, both literally and metaphorically. He discovered manuscripts containing Buddhist texts, different from those he knew, introducing him to new interpretations and perspectives that broadened his understanding of his faith. These encounters were pivotal, shaping his understanding of Buddhism and fueling his passion to bring these newfound insights back to China. Yet the allure of the Silk Road was not just in its spiritual offerings. It was also a realm of adventure, a tapestry woven with threads of danger and excitement. While traversing these routes, he experienced the full force of the elements. He braved scorching deserts where sandstorms threatened to engulf him, climbed treacherous mountain passes where avalanches roared down the slopes, and forded swift rivers where the icy waters tested his strength and will. Each challenge was a test of his endurance, each obstacle a hurdle in his race against time and fate. And then there were the bandits, lurking shadows preying on lone travelers. In those moments when his life hung in the balance, his faith was his anchor, his courage, his shield. He never faltered in his devotion, never compromised on his principles, even when faced with the cold steel of a bandit's blade. His calm in the face of danger, his refusal to be cowed or coerced, often left his captors bewildered. Sometimes they were swayed by his quiet confidence, setting him free with a warning, sometimes with a newfound respect. In such close calls, he discovered reserves of strength he never knew he possessed, proving that the greatest journeys are as much internal as external. But as his travels neared their end, and the promise of India's ancient wisdom lay on the horizon, his troubles were far from over. For as he crossed the Indus River, a mighty torrent roaring with untamed energy, he inadvertently stepped into a whirlpool of conflicting ideologies, a clash between two powerful empires, the Western Turks and the Persians. Caught in the crossfire of their ambitions, Xuanzang found himself in the eye of a political storm. This was not the peaceful India he had envisioned. His quest for spiritual enlightenment had unexpectedly transformed into a fight for survival. He was imprisoned, enduring the suffocating confines of a dark cell, the chilling touch of fear crawling up his spine. Days blurred into nights as he grappled with despair, wondering if his journey's end would be in the cold embrace of a dungeon rather than the warmth of Indian wisdom. Yet even in the depths of his despair, his spirit refused to be broken. Drawing strength from his unyielding determination and the silent support of his faith, he endured. His ordeal became a testament to the indomitable spirit within him, proving that the path to enlightenment was paved not just with peaceful pursuits, but with fortitude in the face of adversity. But as the shadows lengthened and the empires clashed outside his prison walls, an unexpected ray of hope emerged. A fellow monk, Swami Buddhapadra, ventured into these turbulent lands on a similar pilgrimage. Their chance meeting ignited a spark of camaraderie, uniting them in their shared purpose and marking a significant turning point in their individual journeys. Yet despite these hardships, his spirit remained unbroken. Through it all, Xuanzang held fast to his faith, his reason, and his thirst for knowledge. He proved that the pursuit of wisdom was a battle worth fighting, a war worth waging, not with weapons of flesh and blood, but with the enduring strength of the human spirit. His tale is a testament to the power of perseverance, beacon of hope for all who dare to dream big and brave the odds to make their dreams come true. Today, as we sit around our own metaphorical evening fire, listening to the echoes of Xuanzang's journey, let us be inspired by his courage. Let his story kindle the flame of curiosity within us, urging us to explore, to discover, and to endure. For just as Xuanzang brought the light of Buddhist wisdom back to China, may we too illuminate the world with the knowledge and understanding we seek. And as we do, let us remember the words of the Buddha himself. All that we are is the result of what we have been. All that we will be is the result of what we do now. Like Xuanzang, we are the architects of our future, and our journey, like his, is a testament to the transformative power of seeking wisdom in the face of all obstacles. Now we find ourselves in the year 629, in the great city of Chang'an, where the morning mist clings to the curved roofs of temples, and the air carries the soft chanting of monks at their dawn prayers. Here in the monastery of Jingtu, a young monk named Xuanzang kneels in meditation, his shaved head bowed in contemplation of a problem that has been troubling him for months. And while it may seem odd to you, dear viewers, for a man so learned to ponder such things, allow me to assure you that this is a problem that has plagued scholars since time began. You see, Xuanzang is not a warrior or a merchant, but a scholar whose gentle nature masks an iron determination. At 29 years old, he has already distinguished himself as one of the most learned monks in all of China, capable of reciting from memory entire Buddhist sutras and engaging in theological debates that can last from sunrise to sunset. Yet for all his learning, he is troubled by inconsistencies he has found in the Buddhist texts. It's available in China Contradictions, and gaps that gnaw at his scholarly mind like thorns in silk. The solution, he has concluded, lies not in the libraries of Chang'an, but in the birthplace of Buddhism itself, India, where the original Sanskrit texts reside in the great monasteries and universities, where the very air still carries the memory of the Buddha's teachings. There's just one small problem. It would take at least 6 years to get there, crossing some of the most treacherous landscapes on Earth, including the barren deserts of the Taklamakan home to roving bands of thieves and ferocious sandstorms that can bury an entire caravan in dunes. And when Xuanzang first approaches the imperial court to request permission for this journey, he is met with polite but firm refusal. The borders are dangerous, the officials explain. Relations with the Western kingdoms are uncertain. The emperor cannot risk the life of such a learned monk on what might be a fool's errand. But Xuanzang's determination runs deeper than imperial prohibitions. So when a rare imperial caravan is announced, bound for the western regions, Xuanzang sees his chance. With a mix of cunning and charisma, he insinuates himself into the good graces of the imperial scribe, eventually convincing him to carry a sealed letter requesting safe passage to India from any official the emperor's messenger might meet along the way. With that, Xuanzang sets out from Chang'an in late 629, joining the long line of pilgrims and merchants making their way west. He travels light, carrying nothing but his monk's robes, a handful of silver coins, and an unshakable faith in the importance of his mission. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the caravan wins its way through the winding streets of the great city until they reach the North Gate, where the towering watchtowers seem to form a protective embrace around Chang'an's heart. With a final glance back at the receding city, the caravan turns decisively to the west. They ride hard for the next 3 days, covering over 300 miles of open plain, before the landscape begins to shift. The land rises up into rolling hills and deep valleys, cloaking the travelers in a cool, refreshing shade as they make their way along the gurgling waters of the Wei River. By the end of June, the caravan has traveled almost 800 miles, reaching the oasis town of Liyuan, where they pause to rest before continuing their arduous journey across the desolate deserts of the Taklamakan. Weary travelers seek solace under the sheltering eaves, sharing stories around evening fires and sipping hot green tea from wooden bowls, while the wind whispers tales of distant lands beyond the dunes. And as the night grows late, they pull their furs tight against the desert's chilling embrace, huddling close around the flickering firelight, dreaming of the comforts of home. And here we must take a moment to pay homage to those who stood guard throughout the night, fiercely battling the elements and the lurking dangers of the desert to ensure the safety of all. As the pale fingers of dawn begin to stretch across the horizon, the travelers rouse themselves from their desert slumber, shaking off the chill of the night and preparing for another day on the unforgiving sands. Soon the caravan is winding its way through the endless dunes, each mile marker bringing them closer to the end of their journey. And as the final rays of sunlight begin to paint the sky with hues of orange and purple, the travelers know they are nearing their destination, the great city of Kashgar. With weary steps, they enter the bustling city, relieved to be leaving the harsh embrace of the desert behind. But their troubles are not yet over, for as they step into Kashgar's vibrant heart, they find themselves in the midst of a raging debate. You see, in this time and place, Central Asia is a melting pot of cultures and religions, a crossroads where the Silk Roads converge and ideas collide. Here in Kashgar, 2 distinct branches of Buddhism are at odds, the Northern School and the Southern School, each claiming to hold the true path to enlightenment. Tensions rise as the 2 sides clash, eager to prove their beliefs are the only path to salvation. Amidst this maelstrom of theological debate, Xuanzang remains calm, his gentle demeanor belying the turmoil that rages within him. He realizes that to continue his journey to India, he must tread carefully in this divided city. Seeking wisdom amidst the din, Xuanzang finds an ally in an elderly monk named Bodhidharma, who takes him under his wing, guiding him through the city's labyrinthine streets and introducing him to influential figures in the Northern School. Through Bodhidharma's wisdom and connections, Xuanzang manages to secure a coveted letter of introduction to the Western regions, granting him safe passage through the turbulent lands that lie between Kashgar and India. With the caravan season coming to a close, Xuanzang knows that his journey to India will have to wait until the spring when the weather is more favorable for travel. So he takes the opportunity to immerse himself in the study of Buddhist texts, eager to deepen his understanding of the faith. In the serene halls of Kashgar's monasteries, he engages in lively debates with fellow scholars, challenging their perspectives and refining his own. Meanwhile, the people of Kashgar regard the distinguished monk with curiosity and respect, wondering about the enigmatic pilgrim who has come so far in search of ancient scriptures. And so the year turns and winter's icy grip tightens its hold on the Silk Road. The once bustling caravan routes fall silent as the harsh weather conditions make travel nearly impossible. For Xuanzang, this presents a dilemma. He could try to brave the perilous winter journey through the mountain passes, but the risks are high and the chances of survival slim. Or he could bide his time in Kashgar, waiting for the spring when the roads would be safer to travel. Xuanzang chooses the latter, realizing that the pursuit of wisdom must also include the preservation of his own life. During the long winter months, Xuanzang throws himself into his studies, delving deeper into the Buddhist texts and engaging in lively debates with the scholars of Kashgar. He also uses this time to mend the robes that have been worn thin by his travels and to care for his donkey, ensuring that his faithful companion remains strong and healthy. Despite the cold and the solitude, Xuanzang finds a measure of contentment in Kashgar. He enjoys the simple pleasures of a warm meal shared with fellow travelers and the satisfaction of a debate well argued. He also comes to appreciate the hospitality of the local people who, despite their own hardships, welcome him as an honored guest. Meanwhile, the winter snows blanket the Silk Road, transforming the rugged landscape into a scene of stark beauty. The mountain passes become treacherous, the river flows freeze, and the wind carries the promise of spring. And as the days grow longer and the sun's warmth begins to melt the winter's icy grip, Xuanzang feels a renewed sense of purpose stir within him. The time has come to continue his journey to India in search of the ancient Buddhist scriptures. With the arrival of spring, the caravan routes come alive again as merchants and pilgrims from distant lands set out on their journeys. Among them is Xuanzang, ready to resume his quest for wisdom. He bids farewell to his newfound friends in Kashgar, promising to return someday with the knowledge he seeks. As the caravan winds its way through the newly opened mountain passes, Xuanzang's thoughts turn to the challenges that lie ahead. The journey to India will be fraught with danger and hardship, but his determination to succeed remains steadfast. He is driven by an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and a deep sense of duty to bring the ancient Buddhist texts back to China. Dear viewers, I trust you've enjoyed this tale thus far, but if you find yourself eager for more adventures of Xuanzang, do not fret. Simply click your mouse or nimble fingers on that bell icon to be among the first to receive notifications of our latest installments. Your support means the world to us, and we eagerly await the opportunity to continue captivating you with more tales of courage, adventure, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Until then, farewell, and may the winds of wisdom guide your path. Buddhism came to China many centuries ago. We know this. But how did it get there? And when it arrived, how was it received? Today, we will look at the life of a monk who bridged two worlds, carrying with him not just scriptures, but a spirit of inquiry and understanding. This is Tang Dynasty monk Xuanzang, and this is the story of how he brought Buddhism home. Our previous episode left off with Xuanzang making his way toward the court of the great king Harsha, a ruler whose fame for both piety and poetry had preceded him. Harsha's court was a place where merchants discussed philosophy with poets, where generals debated theology with diplomats. For Xuanzang, it was like stepping into a poem, a realm of refined civilization where the rules of etiquette were as finely honed as the verses the courtiers delighted in composing. Here the great king received him not as a foreign interloper, but as an honored guest. There were banquets in his honor, poems composed in praise of his travels. And when Harsha finally invited him to a private audience, it was to discuss not politics or trade, but scriptures and the subtle points of Buddhist doctrine. In the annals of history, some kings become legendary for their wealth, others for their conquests. But Harsha's name echoes down the ages because of his patronage of Buddhism and the arts. He ruled over a kingdom that stretched from the Bay of Bengal to the Himalayas, but his interests transcended the limitations of geography and time. He surrounded himself with the finest scholars and most accomplished poets, turning his court into a vibrant center of cultural exchange. His own literary output was prodigious, composing verses on a wide variety of topics, from the mundane concerns of daily life to the loftiest philosophical inquiries. When Xuanzang first entered Harsha's court, he must have felt a sense of awe. Here was a ruler who seemed more akin to an intellectual than a monarch, more interested in the refinement of the mind than the acquisition of land or treasure. As the son of a Chinese emperor, Harsha could have been expected to follow in his father's footsteps, immersing himself in the complexities of statecraft and military strategy. Yet he seems to have been drawn to a different path. Perhaps it was his early exposure to Buddhist teachings which emphasized meditation and self-reflection. Or maybe it was simply a profound love of learning that led him to seek wisdom wherever he could find it. Whatever the reason, Harsha's decision to embrace Buddhism and scholarship was a pivotal moment not only for himself, but also for the history of his region. Xuanzang had come to India seeking ancient Buddhist texts and found instead a living embodiment of the faith's principles. In the years that followed, he would travel widely across India, visiting holy sites and engaging in theological debates. But it was his relationship with Harsha that truly exemplified the spirit of Buddhist exchange and mutual respect. The king's admiration for Xuanzang was evident in the lavish reception he gave him and the numerous gifts he bestowed upon him. These tokens of appreciation were not merely gestures of hospitality, but symbols of the deep respect Harsha had for Xuanzang's scholarship and perseverance. It was an affirmation of the value of knowledge and the pursuit of wisdom, regardless of where it came from or who possessed it. But it was Xuanzang's own character and achievements that made him so remarkable. His tireless efforts to preserve Buddhist teachings, his willingness to engage in theological debates, and his ability to bridge cultural divides were all qualities that resonated with Harsha's own values and aspirations. In many ways, their relationship was a microcosm of Harsha's broader vision for his kingdom, a place where different cultures and ideas could come together and enrich one another. Harsha's invitation to attend the great religious assembly he planned in Xuanzang's honor was more than a gesture of courtesy. It was a reflection of his genuine desire to learn and his respect for Xuanzang's contributions to Buddhist scholarship. For Xuanzang, the assembly must have been both humbling and inspiring. To be the focus of such attention and to witness the coming together of so many different Buddhist traditions was a rare privilege. It was a testament to his dedication and hard work, as well as the growing influence of Buddhism in India and beyond. The assembly itself was an extraordinary event, a gathering of 18 kings and thousands of monks representing various schools of Buddhist thought. It was not just a display of power or wealth, but a celebration of intellectual curiosity and the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. The debates that took place must have been intense and illuminating, bringing together some of the finest minds of the age to explore the depths of Buddhist teachings. For Xuanzang, who had dedicated his life to the study of Buddhism, it would have been an unparalleled opportunity for growth and discovery. To be in the presence of so many brilliant scholars and theologians, to engage in lively discussions and to hear diverse perspectives on complex doctrines would have been both invigorating and humbling. Such assemblies were not only forums for theological discourse, but also occasions for cultural exchange and personal growth. They provided a platform for scholars to share their knowledge, test their understanding, and forge new connections. But amidst the grandeur of the assembly, Xuanzang likely found solace and inspiration in the quieter moments, sharing tea with rival scholars in the monasteries, discussing the intricacies of Buddhist philosophy in the tranquility of a garden at dawn, or meditating with monks whose skin might have been different colors, but whose hearts beat with the same desire for understanding. These quiet moments of communion and contemplation were perhaps the most valuable parts of the experience for Xuanzang, reminding him of the universality of Buddhist teachings and the bonds that united all practitioners on the path to enlightenment. Yet, as with any journey, there comes a time to return. After an extended stay at Harsha's court, Xuanzang knew it was time to begin his journey home. The years he had spent in India had been transformative, filled with challenges, discoveries, and personal growth. As he prepared to depart, he must have felt a mixture of emotions. Excitement at the prospect of returning to China, gratitude for the experiences that had shaped him, and a tinge of sadness at leaving the place he had called home for so long. But Xuanzang was not leaving empty-handed. He carried with him not just memories and insights, but tangible treasures that would enrich Buddhism in China. His collection of 657 Sanskrit texts represented a wealth of ancient wisdom that had been preserved in India and was now being brought back to its ancestral home. These texts, along with the Buddha statues and relics he had gathered, were not merely artifacts, but living embodiments of Indian Buddhism, tangible links to the traditions and teachings he had embraced during his years in India. They were the fruits of his labor, the rewards of his dedication, and the testimonies to his enduring passion for Buddhist scholarship. But perhaps the greatest treasure Xuanzang brought back was the profound transformation that had taken place within him. His journey to India had been one of self-discovery as much as it had been a quest for ancient texts. He had started out as a promising young scholar, but through his travels, his interactions with other monks, and his immersion in the rich traditions of Indian Buddhism, he had evolved into one of the most learned Buddhist monks of his age. He had gained not only knowledge, but wisdom, patience, tolerance, and a deep appreciation for the universality of Buddhist teachings. Now that he was returning to China, Xuanzang knew he had a new mission. He had witnessed firsthand the vibrancy of Indian Buddhism and the depth of its ancient roots. He was not just a traveler returning home, but a messenger carrying a vital part of Buddhist heritage back to its source. He was also a living embodiment of the cultural exchange that had enriched his own life, and he had the opportunity to share that experience with others. His tales of adventure, his descriptions of Indian customs, and his accounts of the profound wisdom he had encountered would undoubtedly captivate his audience in China. But more importantly, his very presence would serve as a reminder of the connections that transcended geographical boundaries and cultural differences. As Xuanzang embarked on his return journey, he must have felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges of his westward travels were now behind him. Instead, he was moving as the head of a caravan laden with the treasures of Indian Buddhism. His steps were lighter, his heart was fuller, and his mind was brimming with the insights and experiences that had shaped him into the wise monk scholar he had become. In the bustling cities and tranquil monasteries along his route, Xuanzang continued his quiet ritual. Water heated over a carefully tended fire, tea leaves selected with the same attention he once devoted to choosing Sanskrit texts for translation. The slow preparation that transformed simple ingredients into something approaching liquid meditation. As the sun dipped below the horizon each evening and his caravan made camp, the air filled with the aroma of spices and wood smoke, creating a comforting atmosphere that encouraged open conversation and deeper reflection. Surrounded by merchants, guides, and fellow pilgrims, Xuanzang shared not just the physical warmth of the brew, but the spiritual insights gathered during his years of study. With every cup of tea, he wove tales of his adventures, discussed the subtleties of Buddhist philosophy, and reflected on the profound impact that Indian Buddhism had had on his life. The tea ceremony became more than just a daily ritual. It was a testament to the enduring power of simplicity, community, and the transformative journey he had undertaken. And so the story of Xuanzang, the monk who brought Buddhism home, unfolded not just in the grand halls of king's courts, but in the quiet moments of shared humanity. Each cup of tea, each shared story, and each quiet discussion was a step toward bridging the divides of language, culture, and belief. He didn't just bring Buddhism back to China, he became its living embodiment. A link between two worlds and a beacon of understanding in a complex and sometimes divided world.
As your caravan continues its slow progress across the vast emptiness of the Taklamakan, you begin to understand why the desert-dwelling peoples speak of oases not merely as sources of water, but as repositories of memory itself. Each green sanctuary, scattered across these endless expanses of sand and stone, holds within its shade centuries of accumulated wisdom, transforming what might have been simple rest stops into something far more profound. Living libraries where knowledge flows as freely as the precious water that sustains life. The first hint of an approaching oasis comes not through sight, but through subtle changes in the desert air itself. Your camels sense it first. Old wisdom lifts her head higher, her nostrils flaring as she catches the almost imperceptible scent of moisture and growing things carried on air currents that seem no different from the dry wind that has been your constant companion for days. The guides, too, begin to show signs of anticipation, their eyes scanning the horizon with the focused attention of men who have learned to read the desert's most subtle signs. Then, shimmering at first like one of the many mirages that have deceived travelers throughout the ages, the green crown of date palms begins to emerge from the heat haze. But this is no illusion as you draw closer. The mirage solidifies into blessed reality. Tall palms sway gently in the afternoon breeze, their fronds rustling with a sound like whispered prayers. Beneath their shade, you can make out the geometric patterns of cultivated fields, the straight lines of irrigation channels, and most welcome of all, the glint of sunlight on moving water. This is Dunhuang, one of the great oasis cities that serve as pearls strung along the silk thread of the ancient trade routes. But as your caravan approaches the city's walls, you realize that what awaits you here is far more than simple respite from the desert's harsh embrace. The very air seems heavy with accumulated learning, thick with the memory of countless scholars, pilgrims, and seekers who have found in this green refuge not just physical restoration, but intellectual and spiritual nourishment as well. The city's architecture speaks of its unique role as a crossroads of cultures. Buddhist stupas rise beside Taoist temples, their curved rooflines creating graceful silhouettes against the brilliant blue sky. Islamic minarets stand in peaceful proximity to Confucian academies, while Zoroastrian fire temples add their own distinctive geometric patterns to the visual symphony of religious architecture. Each building style tells the story of different peoples who have found welcome here, contributing their own traditions to the oasis's ever-growing store of accumulated wisdom. But it is when you enter the famous cave libraries of Mogao that you truly begin to understand why oases like Dunhuang have become legendary among scholars and pilgrims throughout Asia. Carved into the face of a cliff that rises like a natural wall from the desert floor, hundreds of cave chambers house one of the world's greatest collections of manuscripts, scrolls, and artistic treasures. The caves themselves seem to breathe with the accumulated wisdom of centuries, their walls decorated with paintings so exquisite they transform stone chambers into windows into other worlds. Your guide, a scholarly monk named Brother Dowan, whose gentle manner masks an encyclopedic knowledge of the collection, leads you through chambers that serve as repositories for texts in dozens of languages. Here, Sanskrit sutras copied on palm leaves share shelf space with Persian poetry written on silk scrolls. Chinese historical chronicles rest beside Sogdian commercial contracts, while Tibetan prayer wheels sit in comfortable proximity to Greek philosophical treatises that somehow found their way across continents and centuries to rest in these desert caves. Knowledge, Brother Dowan explains as he carefully unrolls a particularly beautiful manuscript illuminated with gold leaf and precious pigments, does not recognize the boundaries that men draw on maps. Here in the desert, where survival depends on cooperation rather than conquest, wisdom from all traditions finds equal welcome. His voice carries the quiet satisfaction of a man who has spent his life tending this garden of learning, nurturing texts the way other men might tend date palms or irrigation channels. The process of preserving manuscripts in the desert climate requires its own specialized knowledge, passed down through generations of scholarly monks and lay custodians. The dry air that makes life so challenging for humans proves ideal for the preservation of paper and silk, while the constant temperature of the cave chambers protects delicate inks and pigments from the expansion and contraction that might crack or fade them. Each manuscript is wrapped in silk, treated with special oils, stored in cedar boxes carved with protective symbols, and checked regularly by custodians whose trained eyes can detect the first signs of deterioration or insect damage. As evening approaches and the day's heat begins to dissipate, Brother Dawen invites you to participate in one of Dunhuang's most treasured traditions, the evening discourse sessions held in the oasis's central garden. Here, beneath date palms whose fronds filter the last golden light of day, scholars, merchants, pilgrims, and local residents gather in loose circles to share knowledge, stories, and insights gathered from across the known world. The setting for these gatherings seems designed by nature herself as the perfect venue for contemplative discussion. A natural spring emerges from the base of the cliff, its water collected in a series of stone-lined pools that reflect the evening sky like mirrors. The sound of moving water provides a gentle undertone to conversation, while the date palms rustle overhead with a sound like pages turning in an enormous book. Stone benches arranged in concentric circles allow participants to see and hear each other easily, while carved niches in the garden walls hold oil lamps that will provide gentle illumination as darkness falls. Tonight's discussion centers on a question that has fascinated scholars for generations. How do different cultures understand the relationship between wisdom and tea? The topic seems perfectly suited to this gathering of travelers from across Asia, each bringing their own traditions and perspectives to bear on a subject that touches the daily lives of everyone present. A Tibetan Lama begins the discussion by describing the elaborate tea ceremonies performed in mountain monasteries, where the preparation and sharing of butter tea becomes a form of meditation in itself. In our tradition, he explains, his voice carrying the measured cadence of one accustomed to teaching, tea is not merely a beverage, but a teacher. The bitterness of the leaves reminds us that life contains suffering, while the warmth of the liquid speaks to the compassion that can transform that suffering into wisdom. A Persian merchant adds his own perspective, describing the tea houses of Isfahan, where poets and philosophers gather to debate questions of love, beauties, and divine truth over glasses of tea flavored with cardamom and rose petals. In Persia, he says, we believe that tea opens the heart as well as the mind. The greatest insights come not from solitary study, but from the communion of souls that happens when friends share both tea and conversation. A Chinese scholar contributes observations about the Taoist tradition of using tea preparation as a form of moving meditation, where the careful attention to water temperature, steeping time, and the quality of leaves becomes a practice for cultivating mindfulness in all aspects of life. The ancient masters taught that the way of tea and the way of wisdom are the same path, he notes. Both require patience, attention, and the willingness to appreciate subtle distinctions that less refined souls might overlook. As the discussion continues, you begin to understand that what is happening here transcends mere academic discourse. The evening gathering represents a form of cultural alchemy, where ideas from different traditions merge and transform into new insights that belong to no single culture, but to humanity itself. The gentle exchange of perspectives, facilitated by the shared ritual of tea drinking, creates a space where differences in language, religion, and custom become sources of enrichment rather than division. Brother Dawen contributes his own observations about how the cave libraries have influenced his understanding of tea's role in scholarly life. When I spend long hours copying manuscripts, he explains, tea becomes my companion in ways that go beyond simple refreshment. The ritual of preparation provides necessary breaks that rest the eyes and refresh the mind, while the subtle stimulation helps maintain the focused attention that precise copying requires. But more than that, Sharing tea with other scholars creates the kind of relaxed atmosphere where insights arise naturally, where questions that seem impossible in isolation find their answers through gentle discussion. As full darkness settles over the oasis and the oil lamps are lit, casting dancing shadows among the palm fronds, the conversation gradually shifts from formal discourse to more intimate sharing. A young apprentice scribe describes his first attempts at copying Sanskrit texts, his initial frustration at characters that seemed impossibly complex, and the patient guidance of masters who taught him to see in each stroke not just a mark on paper, but a small act of devotion to the preservation of wisdom. An elderly woman who serves as one of the cave custodians shares memories of decades spent tending the manuscript collection, of discoveries made when new caves were opened, of the quiet satisfaction that comes from ensuring that future generations will have access to the accumulated wisdom of the past. Her weathered hands, stained with ink from years of manuscript repair, move gracefully as she describes the meditative quality of her work, the way that careful attention to detail becomes its own form of prayer. A traveling musician produces a small wooden flute and begins to play melodies that seem to capture the essence of different cultures, represented in the evening's gathering, now a haunting Tibetan chant, now a Persian love song, now a Chinese folk tune that speaks of mountains and flowing water. The music weaves through the conversation like a golden thread, connecting words and ideas in ways that pure language cannot achieve. The tea service continues throughout the evening, but it takes on an almost ceremonial quality that transcends the simple need for refreshment. Different participants contribute their own special blends and preparation methods, creating a kind of liquid anthology of the world's tea traditions. The Tibetan Lama shares his butter tea, rich and nourishing, perfect for high-altitude cold. The Persian merchant offers his cardamom-scented brew, fragrant and warming. The Chinese scholar prepares delicate green tea with the precise attention to temperature and timing that his tradition demands. But perhaps the most moving moment comes when Brother Dawan produces a special blend of his own creation, a tea made from leaves gathered in different regions and combined according to principles he has derived from studying the cave manuscripts. This tea, he explains, as he carefully measures the leaves into his brewing vessel, represents the wisdom of our library in liquid form. Each ingredient comes from a different culture, but when properly combined, they create something new, something that honors all traditions while belonging completely to none. The resulting brew is unlike anything you have tasted before. It begins with the grassy freshness of Chinese green tea, develops into the malty richness of Indian black tea, and finishes with subtle floral notes that might come from jasmine or rose petals. Each sip seems to tell a story, to carry within it the memory of distant gardens and patient hands that tended the plants from which these leaves were gathered. As the evening draws toward its close, and participants begin to drift away to their various accommodations, you find yourself reluctant to leave this magical circle of learning and fellowship. The combination of physical comfort, the soft air, the gentle sound of water, the warm tea with intellectual stimulation, creates a state of profound contentment that seems to represent the very best of what human civilization can achieve. Brother Dawan, seeming to sense your reluctance to end the evening, invites you to join him for a final visit to his favorite among the cave libraries. By oil lamp light, the chamber takes on an even more mystical quality than it possessed during the day. The painted walls seem to flicker and move in the dancing light, while the manuscripts themselves appear to glow with inner illumination. This is why we preserve these texts, he says quietly, as you stand together in the chamber, surrounded by centuries of accumulated wisdom, not because they are valuable in themselves, but because they represent humanity's greatest treasure, the patient accumulation of understanding across generations. Each manuscript is like a single tea leaf, valuable in itself, but achieving its true purpose only when combined with others in the proper conditions to create something that nourishes the soul. He shows you manuscripts you had not seen during the day's tour texts, so rare that they are brought out only for special occasions. A collection of Buddhist Jataka tales illustrated with paintings so exquisite they seem to capture not just the appearance of their subjects, but their very souls. A Taoist alchemical treatise that describes the preparation of various elixirs, including detailed instructions for tea blends designed to promote longevity and spiritual insight. A Persian manuscript of love poetry, where each verse is accompanied by marginal notes in Chinese, Sanskrit, and Arabic, showing how different cultures have interpreted the same expressions of human emotion. The desert preserves more than manuscripts, Brother Dowan observes, as you carefully examine a scroll that seems to shimmer with gold and silver threads woven into the very fabric on which it is written. It preserves the connections between ideas, the conversations between cultures that happen when people of different backgrounds meet in places like this oasis, and discover that their differences are less important than their shared humanity. As you finally make your way back through the quiet streets of Dunhuang toward your caravan's resting place, you carry with you more than just the memory of beautiful manuscripts and stimulating conversation. You have experienced something that the great oases of the Silk Road have offered to travelers for over 1,000 years. The recognition that true wealth lies not in the gold or silk that merchants carry in their caravans, but in the knowledge, wisdom, and fellowship that can be found wherever people gather with open hearts and curious minds. The sound of your footsteps on the stone-paved streets mingles with the distant murmur of water flowing through irrigation channels, the soft rustle of palm fronds in the night breeze, and the occasional distant sound of someone playing a musical instrument or reciting poetry in a language you don't recognize, but somehow understand at a level deeper than words. Tomorrow you will leave this oasis sanctuary and return to the harsh realities of desert travel, but you will carry with you the memory of this evening's gathering, the taste of Brother Dowan's special tea blend, and the profound understanding that every oasis along the Silk Road is more than a simple rest stop. It is a library, a lounge, a university, and a temple, all combined into one precious green refuge, where the desert's apparent emptiness reveals itself to be full of the most valuable treasures human civilization has ever created. Knowledge, wisdom, and the irreplaceable experience of minds meeting across the boundaries of culture and time to share in the great conversation that connects all seekers of truth. After months of desert travel, where luxury meant clean water and shelter from the wind, you find yourself approaching the legendary city of Samarkand as the afternoon sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon. The transformation from the harsh simplicities of caravan life to the refined elegance of one of Central Asia's greatest trading centers feels almost dreamlike, as if you are crossing not just geographical distance, but stepping between different worlds entirely. The first indication of Samarkand's approaching grandeur comes in the form of the road itself, which gradually transforms from the rough tracks and camel paths of the desert into a paved thoroughfare wide enough for multiple caravans to pass without difficulty. The stones beneath your feet have been polished smooth by centuries of merchant traffic, and the roadside begins to show signs of careful cultivation. Orchards of apricot and pomegranate trees, their branches heavy with fruit, gardens where roses bloom in geometric patterns that speak of the Persian influence on Central Asian aesthetics. As the city's walls come into view, rising like a golden crown from the green plain of the Zarafshan River Valley, you begin to understand why Samarkand has captured the imagination of travelers and poets for over 1,000 years. The walls themselves are works of art, built from local stone that glows with warm honey tones in the afternoon light, decorated with intricate patterns of blue and turquoise tilework that catch and hold the eye like jewels set in precious metal. But it is when you pass through the great gates and enter the city proper that the full magnitude of Samarkand's splendor reveals itself. The streets are wider than any you have seen, paved with stones so perfectly fitted they seem like single sheets of rock. Buildings rise 3 and 4 stories high, their walls decorated with geometric patterns and calligraphy so complex they seem to pulse with life in the shifting light. Gardens glimpsed through ornate doorways reveal fountains, reflecting pools, and arrangements of flowers that transform urban spaces into earthly paradises. Your caravan has barely found quarters in the merchants' district when a messenger arrives bearing an ivory tablet, inscribed with flowing Arabic script, an invitation that, when translated, proves to be from Mirza Abdur Rahman, one of Samarkand's most prominent tea merchants, and a man whose influence extends far beyond the boundaries of commerce into the realms of culture, diplomacy, and refined living. The invitation, written in the flowery language of Central Asian courtesy, requests your presence at an evening tea gathering in the Mirza's private residence. But this is clearly no simple business meeting. The elaborate phrasing speaks of an evening devoted to the appreciation of the subtle arts that transform mere sustenance into spiritual nourishment, and mentions that scholars, poets, and connoisseurs of the finer pleasures will be among the guests. As the sun begins to sink toward the horizon, painting Samarkand's walls and domes in shades of gold and rose, you make your way through streets that seem to grow more beautiful with each step. The address you have been given leads through the merchant's quarter into a more refined residential, where high walls conceal private gardens, and the sound of fountains mingles with the distant calls of evening prayers from various mosques and temples. The Mirza's residence, when you finally reach it, proves to be a masterpiece of Central Asian domestic architecture. The exterior wall, built of the same honey-colored stone as the city's fortifications, rises in elegant curves punctuated by arched niches containing glazed pottery and small sculptural details. A wooden door inlaid with ivory and precious metals opens at your approach, revealing a smiling servant who bows deeply and ushers you into a world that seems designed to engage all the senses simultaneously. The entrance courtyard takes your breath away. A rectangular pool lined with blue tiles reflects the darkening sky, its surface disturbed only by the gentle splash of water from a fountain carved in the shape of a pomegranate tree. Around the pool's perimeter, raised beds contain roses, jasmine, and other flowering plants whose fragrances blend into a complex perfume that seems to change subtly as evening breezes shift the air. The sound of water, the visual feast of the garden's geometric patterns, the intoxicating blend of floral scents, all combine to create an atmosphere that speaks of refinement elevated to the level of high art. Mirza Abdur Rahman emerges from the interior of the house like a figure from an illuminated manuscript. He is a man of perhaps 50 years, his beard carefully trimmed and touched with silver, his clothing a long robe of deep blue silk over white cotton trousers, simple in design, but clearly made from the finest materials. What strikes you most immediately about him is not his obvious wealth, but the sense of calm authority he projects, the bearing of a man who has spent decades learning not just how to acquire beautiful things, but how to appreciate them properly. His greeting is as refined as his appearance formal enough to show respect for your status as a fellow merchant, but warm enough to suggest genuine hospitality rather than mere diplomatic courtesy. "Welcome, honored friend," he says in Persian so pure and musical, it seems more like poetry than ordinary speech. Your reputation as a connoisseur of fine teas has preceded you, and I have been looking forward to this opportunity to share an evening devoted to the appreciation of our mutual passion. As he leads you deeper into the house, you find yourself in rooms that redefine your understanding of domestic luxury. The floors are covered with carpets so fine they seem to have been woven from silk and light itself, Persian masterpieces whose patterns tell stories of royal hunts, garden paradises, and geometric meditations on the nature of infinity. The walls are decorated with painted plasterwork that combines Arabic calligraphy with floral motifs, creating surfaces that seem to breathe with subtle life. But it is the tea room itself that truly demonstrates the Mirza's devotion to the refined pleasures of life. The chamber is arranged as a perfect square, its proportions calculated according to mathematical principles that create an almost mystical sense of harmony and balance. Low platforms covered with silk cushions surround a central area where the tea preparation will take place, while niches in the walls hold the Mirza's collection of tea-making implements, copper kettles, porcelain cups, silver strainers, and wooden boxes containing teas from across the known world. The other guests are already assembled when you arrive, a carefully chosen group that reflects the Mirza's position at the center of Samarkand's cultural life. There is Ibrahim al-Sufi, a poet whose verses are quoted in royal courts, from Baghdad to Delhi. Master Lai Mingxian, a Chinese scholar who has spent years studying the philosophical implications of tea cultivation and preparation. Ustad Karami, a master musician whose performances on the oud have moved audiences to tears in Damascus and Cordoba. A handful of other merchants, scholars, and artists, each chosen not just for their accomplishments, but for their ability to contribute to the kind of elevated conversation that the Mirza prizes above all other forms of entertainment. The evening begins with the presentation of rose water and small towels perfumed with sandalwood, allowing guests to refresh themselves after the day's activities. This preliminary ritual, performed with the same careful attention that others might devote to religious ceremonies, establishes the tone for everything that follows, measured, graceful, and infused with an almost sacred regard for the aesthetics of hospitality. As you settle onto silk cushions arranged around the central tea preparation area, servants appear as if by magic, bearing silver trays laden with delicacies that seem designed more for their visual beauty than their nutritional value. There are almond pastries shaped like miniature roses, their surfaces dusted with powdered sugar that catches the light from oil lamps like tiny stars. Dates stuffed with pistachios and rolled in coconut create small edible jewels, while paper-thin sheets of pastry filled with honey and ground nuts are arranged in geometric patterns that echo the designs on the room's painted walls. But these delicacies, exquisite as they are, serve merely as accompaniments to the evening's true focus, the elaborate tea ceremony that Mirza Abdur Rahman performs with the skill and dedication of a master craftsman. His movements as he prepares the tea service are so graceful they seem almost choreographed, each gesture flowing seamlessly into the next as he selects leaves, heats water, and arranges cups with the precision of a calligrapher, creating a perfect poem. The first tea of the evening is a delicate white tea from the mountains of Fujian. Its pale golden liquor, served in cups so thin they seem made of crystallized light. The Mirza explains the tea's provenance as he pours which specific mountain it came from, the conditions under which it was harvested, the master tea maker who supervised its processing. His knowledge is encyclopedic, but delivered with such gentle enthusiasm that education becomes entertainment. As the evening progresses, the conversation flows as smoothly as the tea itself, guided by the Mirza's subtle skill as a host. Ibrahim al-Sufi recites verses that compare the brewing of tea to the creation of poetry. Both require perfect timing, careful attention to subtle variations, and the wisdom to know when the process has reached its ideal completion. Master Lai Mingxin contributes observations about the Taoist principles underlying tea cultivation, explaining how the best teas come from plants that grow in harmony with their natural environment, rather than being forced into artificial productivity. Ustad Karami provides musical interludes between different teas, his oud singing with melodies that seem to capture the essence of each variety in sound. For the delicate white tea, he plays notes as light and ephemeral as morning mist. When the Mirza serves a robust black tea from the hills of Ceylon, the music becomes richer and more complex, with bass notes that seem to echo the deeper flavors of the oxidized leaves. The second tea ceremony of the evening features an oolong from the Wuyi Mountains, its complex processing, evident in a flavor that begins floral and sweet, develops into something nutty and rich, then finishes with a lingering astringency that cleanses the palate and prepares it for whatever follows. The Mirza serves this tea with even greater ceremony than the first, using a complete gongfu tea set that allows him to control every aspect of the brewing process with scientific precision. This tea, he explains, as he rinses the cups with the first infusion, teaches us about the nature of time itself. The same leaves will yield completely different flavors, depending on how long they steep, how hot the water is, how many previous infusions they have undergone. Like human relationships, tea reveals its secrets gradually, offering new discoveries to those patient enough to pay attention. The conversation that accompanies this tea service grows more philosophical as the evening deepens. The poets speak of how the tea ceremony provides a metaphor for artistic creation, the importance of proper materials, careful timing, and the wisdom to appreciate subtle distinctions that less refined souls might overlook. The scholars discuss how different cultures have developed their own approaches to tea appreciation, each reflecting deeper values about the relationship between human consciousness and the natural world. Between the formal tea services, servants circulate with additional refreshments that demonstrate the Mirza's connections to trade networks spanning continents. There are candied ginger from the markets of Gujarat, preserved lemons from the groves of Morocco, and tiny cups of sherbet flavored with rosewater and orange blossoms that provide palate-cleansing interludes between different teas. But perhaps the most memorable aspect of the evening is the gradual revelation of the Mirza's personal tea collection varieties, so rare and precious that they are brought out only for the most special occasions. A cake of aged pu'er tea, its surface covered with a white bloom that indicates decades of proper storage, produces a liquor so rich and complex it seems to contain the essence of time itself. A small quantity of imperial-grade dragon well green tea, its flat leaves perfect in shape and size, creates a brew of such delicate perfection that conversation stops entirely as each guest contemplates the liquid poetry in their cup. The third major tea ceremony of the evening features a rare variety from the high plateaus of Tibet, a tea so unusual that most of the guests have never encountered anything like it before. The leaves are pressed into small bricks and aged in yak hide containers, creating a flavor profile that is simultaneously familiar and completely exotic. The Mirza prepares this tea using traditional Tibetan methods, adding yak butter and salt to create a brew that is more like soup than the delicate infusions that preceded it. This reminds us, he says, as he serves this unusual tea, that there are as many ways to appreciate tea as there are cultures that have embraced it. What matters is not conforming to any single tradition, but understanding the principles that underlie all great tea appreciation. Respect for the materials, attention to the process, and openness to the unique qualities that each variety offers. As the evening moves toward its conclusion, the Mirza brings out what is clearly the crown jewel of his collection, a tea so rare that he produces only enough for each guest to experience a single small cup. This is Da Hong Pao, the legendary big red robe, oolong from a few specific bushes in the Wuyi Mountains, a tea so precious that in previous centuries it was reserved exclusively for Chinese emperors. The ceremony surrounding this final tea reaches heights of refinement that transform the simple act of brewing leaves into something approaching religious ritual. Every gesture is deliberate, every timing perfect, every detail calculated to maximize the tea's potential for revelation. When the Mirza finally pours the dark amber liquid into cups that seem almost too precious to touch, the room falls into complete silence. The first sip of this legendary tea is an experience that transcends ordinary sensory pleasure. The flavor is so complex, so layered with subtle notes and harmonious contrasts, that it seems to reorganize your understanding of what tea can be. There are mineral notes that speak of rocky soil and mountain mists, floral hints that suggest the presence of wild orchids, and a lingering sweetness that seems to develop and evolve long after the liquid has been swallowed. This tea, the Mirza says softly, represents the pinnacle of what human cultivation and natural perfection can achieve together. It reminds us that some experiences cannot be hurried, cannot be mass-produced, cannot be replicated through shortcuts or compromises. They exist only when proper conditions align with patient skill and deep appreciation. As the evening draws toward its close, the conversation gradually becomes more intimate, more reflective. The formal presentations give way to quieter exchanges between individuals, small groups forming and reforming as different interests and personalities find their natural affinities. You find yourself in conversation with Master Lai Mingxian about the philosophical implications of tea appreciation, discussing how the practice of careful attention to subtle sensory experiences can serve as training for greater mindfulness in all aspects of life. Ibrahim al-Sufi shares verses he has composed during the evening, inspired by the different teas and the company of fellow connoisseurs. His poetry captures something essential about the evening's atmosphere, the sense of time slowing down, of ordinary experience being elevated into something approaching the sacred through careful attention and refined appreciation. The Mirza moves among his guests like a gracious spirit, ensuring that everyone's cup remains filled, that conversation flows smoothly, that each person feels welcomed and appreciated. His skill as a host is so natural, so effortless, that it seems less like social technique than an expression of genuine care for the comfort and happiness of others. As the night deepens and the oil lamps cast dancing shadows on the painted walls, the Mirza performs one final ceremony, the preparation of a nighttime tea blend of his own creation. Designed to promote peaceful sleep and pleasant dreams, this brew combines chamomile flowers with aged white tea, creating a golden liquid that seems to glow with inner warmth. This tea, he explains, as he serves it in small cups, designed specifically for bedtime consumption, represents the culmination of our evening together, just as our conversation has moved from the stimulating to the contemplative. So this final tea carries us gently toward the restorative embrace of sleep. The final hour of the evening passes in quiet contentment as guests sip their bedtime tea and reflect on the experiences they have shared. The conversation becomes softer, more meditative, filled with expressions of gratitude for the evening's pleasures and anticipation of the peaceful sleep that awaits. When you finally take your leave, walking through Samarkand's quiet streets under a canopy of stars, so bright they seem within reach, you carry with you more than just the memory of exceptional teas and refined hospitality. You have experienced something that represents the very best of Silk Road civilization, the transformation of commercial relationships into cultural exchange, the elevation of simple pleasures into high art, and the creation of spaces where different traditions can meet and enrich each other in an atmosphere of mutual respect and appreciation. The contrast with your desert caravan life could not be more complete, yet both experiences seem essential parts of the Silk Road's greater story. The harsh simplicities of desert travel create an appreciation for refinement that makes evenings like this possible, while the cultural sophistication of cities like Samarkand provides the inspiration and knowledge that makes the hardships of long-distance trade worthwhile. As you settle into sleep in your comfortable quarters, the taste of the Mirza's final tea blends still lingering on your palate. You understand that you have been privileged to participate in something that will live in memory long after the specific details fade. An evening that captured the essence of what the Silk Road represented at its finest. Not just the exchange of goods, but the sharing of the most refined expressions of human civilization, the patient cultivation of beauty and wisdom that transforms simple survival into something approaching art.